Chapter 76. The Angel Wants to Work Hard. Were you shocked? Amani saw Mahiru give an impish smile at his own place, and smiled wryly. More than shocked, I want to say, you're really enthusiastic. Recently, I am starting to realize that I have to be a little forceful towards you. Aman-kun. Sorta. Mahiru was so enthusiastic, for she knew Amani would try to run away. However, he never could, as there was a perimeter around him. Amani was shocked, as he never expected Mahiru to take the initiative. He was relieved for the time being, for she merely talked to him and not enact any skinship. If Mahiru did that innocent skinship as she would do at his house without any self-aware, blades of jealousy would be flying at Amani. Mahiru probably relied on Amani as she found him most reliable, but the people around them might not feel this way. I shall work hard without affecting your life, Aman-kun. If anything happens, please tell me. Mahiru knew of the effect she had, and it appeared she would try not to approach Amani too suddenly. Aman felt that she was being too sudden, but he remained silent. I'm fine for now, though there are some envious looks. I see. Do you dislike it if I talk to you at school? It seemed she was still concerned about Amani's initial unwillingness. Well, not really. I know you're scared of loneliness. I can't just leave my friend aside, and you're tired too, right, Mahiru? Friend. No, nothing. Aman was curious to know why Mahiru's face changed from uneasiness to displeasure, but it appeared she had no intention to talk. Mahiru turned her head aside, and Amane, having sensed that her mood was ruined, started to pat her head. Please do not think that you can solve everything with head pats. Nope, but I think you will be happy. It is the case, but please do not try to fool others with this. I won't do this to anyone other than you. Ultimately, the only girl Amane was on good terms with was Chitose, but there was no way he could do that to her, and he did not think she would be happy. Also, Amane would only do that to Mahiru and did not want to do so to anyone else. He wanted to dote on Mahiru and never planned to do so to anyone else. While he was serious in what he just said, Mahiru had her head lowered as she whacked Amani with the cushion. It appeared those words did not improve her mood. Amane thought it might be good to stop, and did so, but Mahiru head-butted his elbow. It did not hurt at all, but he started to feel skeptical, for Mahiru had been aggressive recently. Amane-kun no baka. What now? How hard do I have to work? I don't understand what you're saying, but you'll be worn out if you work too hard, so keep it in moderation. This is something I can only achieve by working hard. Mahiru lifted her head towards Amane, her vengeful eyes looking beyond his shoulder, yet bashful and somewhat expectant. The moist eyes were up close, and Amane's eyes started to waver. So, what do you want me to do for now, Mahiru? First, continue with the head pats. The word first would imply that she had other things she wanted him to do. But it appeared she had no requests for the time being, so Amane again patted Mahiru on the head, trying his best to coax her. Chapter 77. The Angel and the Promise to Go Out. It's going to be Golden Week soon, Amane muttered as he stared at the calendar on the shelf. He was busy with various things during April, as it was the start of their school year. April was ending by the time he realized. Students and working adults alike would look forward to this Golden Week, which was right around the corner. Amani did not dislike studying. He did not find it tough, no matter how troublesome it might seem. Thus, he was not particularly happy about Golden Week. The only thought he had was that he had more time to relax. Unlike last year's, Aman would not be too bored, for he had Mahiru next to him. One day was taken away, however, when Chitose arranged for a poison taste test with Mahiru's cooking class. It would be ridiculously troublesome rather than boring. Another long vacation. You dislike it? Not really, I just don't know how to spend the time. It appeared Mahiru was the same. Neither of them liked to go out, so they never had any plans. I'm glad to have a break, though. Means that I have nothing to do. Amani's studies were still decent, as he never scrimped on his preparations and revisions. He did not want to spend his vacation studying. He had no plan in particular when it came to his hobbies of strolling and reading. He would only do so in the spur of the moment, and never did plan for them. The same for his games. He really had no plans. Amani-kun, are you free? I'm rather bored. At this point, his only plans were to taste test for poison and go for a karaoke session with Isuki and Kadawaki. He had a lot of free days in this one-week vacation. Let's just relax at home, he muttered to himself, only to find Mahiru looking up at him unflinchingly. What is it? It appeared Mahiru had something to say, and once his eyes met hers, she reached her hand for the cell phone on the table, or rather the phone cover. Her phone cover was a flip case and it had slots for stuff like cards. She pulled out a little plastic bag with a zipper, which contained several folded pieces of paper. She took one out and showed it to Aman. It was not something so long ago to be nostalgic about. It was the "I'll do anything you say" coupon Amane gave her more than a month ago. She handed over the coupon, which had the bare illustration Aman felt he drew decently. After that, she looked up at him unflinchingly. May I use it? Give your command. I want to spend one day with you during Golden Week, Amane-kun. I want to go shopping, to play, and so on. Is that fine? Mahiru asked apprehensively, and Amane gave a wry smile. No, seriously. Even without that, I'll go shopping with you if you give me a holler. Aman probably had to accompany Mahiru in that getup, but he was willing to do so as long as she requested. He felt she did not need to use the coupon. You don't have to use your request on this little thing, so he chuckled. But Mahiru shook her head with a serious look. I shall use it, promise that you will do everything I ask of you on that day. Well, if you say so. What do you want me to do, though? See, carry some bags. All right, I'll listen to you. How heavy is the stuff going to be? He felt like retorting, but he nodded since she said so much. Mahiru disliked going out, but she probably had some occasional urges to go out and enjoy herself. Amani felt that if possible, he would accompany her no matter how unwilling she might be. After all, he too was bored. He thought it would be a bad thing if rumors of that man showed up again, but it would be stupid of him to not go anywhere if he was scared of this little thing. So, where are we going? I have not decided. So you haven't decided? Because I do not know what places you do like. Me? We have the opportunity to go out together, and I want to go to a place we can both enjoy. Can we? Nobody can ever reject her when she tugged at his sleeve and asked while looking up. Grr. Amane felt suffocated. He looked around, combed his hair up, and sighed. Well, I intend to go along with you anyway. In that case, there's a place I want to go to. It was an unbearable place to go alone, but Amain wanted to visit it. Where? Don't laugh at me. I will not. A cat cafe. Yes, a cat cafe with lots of kittens. Aman liked animals, but he could not raise any in his apartment, so he could only read the magazines or see others raise them. The surrounding stairs would be unbearable if he entered the cafe alone as a boy, so he could not. With Mahiru around, Amane did not have to worry about the stares from others. There would be another kind of stares, but he felt he should be able to relax. Also, the sight of Mahiru playing with the cats would surely be cute. So he thought, but obviously he could not voice it out. If the two of us go together, it won't be that awkward. Can we? Oh, of course. Then, let us go together. Oh. Aman was grateful and yet embarrassed by Mahiru's agreement. He felt his cheeks searing, but he managed to endure it. Once he saw Mahiru looking unconfident, he smiled at her. So what are we doing after that? After that, we will go shopping together. I want to go to a game center. I have never been there before. As expected, the princess like Mahiru was interested in a game center, as she had never been there before. In that case, he should bring her there and show her how it was like. The dolls she liked might be in stock again, and she would be happy to catch them together with him. Let's go there then. Cat cafe, food, shopping, game center. Pretty much. Yes. Aman heaved a sigh of relief as they had decided on the schedule to a certain extent. Mahiru lifted her head, her face turned towards him. I'm really looking forward to it. Aman nearly lost his breath once he saw the shyness born from her overwhelming happiness. I wish for the holidays to arrive soon, Mahiru whispered, sounding as though she was really looking forward to go out. With a sweet smile, she happily embraced the cushion. Aman stared blankly at her smile, and then felt his heart pound wildly. Yeah, he answered hoarsely. The angel's sudden attack was very bad for the heart. Chapter 78. The Angel's Cooking Class. Mahirun's first cooking class. It sounded like there was a BGM of some cooking show lasting a few minutes when Chitose declared that, and Amane never concealed his disdain as he looked at her. They had Mahiru's cooking lesson on the first day of Golden Week, at Amane's place. The reason was that it was a place convenient for Mahiru and Chitose to gather, and a place Amane could enter. Chitose had her parents around, and she could not make much noise. Aman himself was unwilling to enter Mahiru's place. The only choice left was his place. Yay. Chitose got agitated as she put on the apron. Mahiru smiled wryly as she put on her apron. Please welcome our teacher for the day, Mahiru Shina-san. Like hell you're welcomed. You're the one who got invited here. And here we have our poison guest I invited, the very picky eater, Amane Fujimiya-san. Shut up. This is my house anyway. You're ruining the mood. Early in the morning, Amane was not as lively as Chitose. It was just past 9 a.m. Everyone chose this time so that they could have lunch after the cooking class ended. The timing itself was not an issue, but Amane had difficulty dealing with Chitose's upbeat mood as he had just woken up. Sorry, it is early in the morning. No, it's fine. I get to eat your cooking after all. More important, watch out for Chitose and make sure she doesn't add in weird stuff. You really distrust me, huh? Did you forget what you did for Valentine's? Amane could never forget her pranking him with that chocolate. Of course, the normal ones were fine, but that the jackpot and the eccentric flavors certainly were so shocking. Amane had vivid memories of them. Chitose said they were edible, so her taste buds were not too reliable. Ha. It's a prank after all. I should be fine if I cook normally, probably. That probably at the end makes me worry. Okay. Idiot, please make something I can eat. Okay, got it. Leave it to me, Chitose rolled her sleeves as she said confidently. Aman was unnerved by her, but he believed that Mahiru should be able to sort her out, so he decided to watch them silently. Mahiru would never compromise on whatever was to be served for consumption. Since it was a cooking class, she would devote herself to cook normal food. They should be fine. She led Chitose into the kitchen she was well familiar with. The dishes' names were probably the menu for the day. Just to note, they were going to make quiche with salad, prawn biscuit, and the remainder to be sautéed. It probably was to satisfy how Amane wanted to eat his prawns. It probably would not be weird in any way, but Amane worried that Chitose might add strange stuff into the quiche. I have a feeling someone has been doubting me. Chitose gave a displeased look, for she probably noticed Amane's skeptical look. Amane then looked away from her and sat on the sofa. To be honest, Amane had nothing to do. He was invited here as the poison tester, his own house. Aman himself could cook if Mahiru was helping, but it was Chitose's turn to cook. Amane could not move as Mahiru had asked him to sit. Thus, Amane was bored. He looked towards the kitchen and saw the two girls in aprons talk intimately as they began cooking. They had different body sizes, but they were pretty girls, and they were in his house cooking. Any boy will find it a tantalizing proposition, so he thought as he listlessly looked over at them. Will that prankster of a cat do anything? Once again he was gripped by uneasiness, but as he was really bored, he slowly closed his eyes. It would take a few hours, and he should be fine with a little nap. After all, it was his house, and the only one who would scold him was Mahiru. Huh. Amane yawned and leaned his body onto the sofa. Chapter 79. The Angel and the Little Devil. By the time he realized it, Aman had a whiff of sweet scent. It was a familiar scent, one unspeakably sweet like milk and flowers. It was a comforting smell, and Aman unwittingly inhaled lots of it. In his hazy consciousness, he brought his face close to the source of that scent and felt a warm, soft feeling. The feeling of skin was comfortable to feel. Aman brought his face close to enjoy it, only to feel it shaking. It is very itchy." He heard a perturbed, soft voice next to him and felt his legs slapped on. His hazy consciousness started to awaken as he opened his heavy eyelids. The silky, milky color appeared in his eyes. He looked up timidly, and within inches was Mahiru's perturbed, bashful face. "Mahiru?" "Yes. Good morning." "Good morning, but it is now noon." Amane had a look at the digital clock on the shelf. It was past noon. He realized he had slept for a long time, but he had no idea why Mahiru was next to him. "I sat next to you, and you leaned over." Mahiru answered as though she was answering his question, and her face reddened slightly. It seemed Amane had buried his face near Mahiru's shoulder. Her collar was a little opened, which exposed some skin. This might have been a case of sexual harassment, so Amane hoped she would scold him if she got angry. She instead lowered her eyes bashfully. He hoped she would be angry, but given her reaction, he was left troubled. He felt like he was forgiven, and it did not feel relieving to him. Sorry for making you uncomfortable." "No, not at all. I think Mahirun's seeing it as Amane-kun's sleepy and fawning over me." "Chitose-san." Chitose appeared to be watching from afar, and she was grinning, or rather leering as she quipped, leaving Mahiru's face all the redder. "Say, when did you two start calling each other by name?" "Chitose, don't glare at me. You're the careless one here, right?" Amane could only shut up. He had fallen asleep and let his guard down. He called Mahiru by her given name despite Chitose being around. It was his carelessness. "But I heard from Mahirun. I already know you two address each other by name." "Say, you." "So sorry." "No, I'm not blaming you, Mahiru." Mahiru misunderstood that Amane was reproaching her for accidentally blurting this and hastily shook her head. Chitose grinned away, looking really happy. "Well, for me, I'm happy that Mahirun and Amane are getting along, you know? It's not a bad thing. You are thinking too much. It's not what you think." "Hmm? What?" "Nothing. Nothing. Nothing at all." Chitose said it was fine, but actually she was seemingly hesitant to talk. He did not intend to express herself in words, however, and merely shrugged. It was futile to pursue the matter. Next to him, Mahiru lowered her eyebrows slightly. "Mahiru? Ah, no, it is nothing." Once Amane spoke to her, she seemingly reeled back as she hastily smiled and shook her head. Amane could not ask any further and kept quiet. "We are done preparing lunch. You will eat it, I suppose?" "Of course I will, but seriously, I slept till noon." "A long time did pass? We had time to see your sleeping face. You didn't prank me, right?" "Of course we didn't." Chitose insisted that they never pranked him, but Amane could not really believe her, probably because of her usual antics. "What's with you, boy? You did something else?" "Nothing. I did nothing at all." "You serious? Mahiru, this fellow didn't do anything?" He looked towards Mahiru for confirmation, and the latter lowered her eyebrows, showing a wry smile as the conversation was suddenly directed at her. "Whew. Quit, impilation for the rice. Clue, leak. I see. If she did anything, I wanted to twist my fists on her temples. No violence, Chitose said, while laughing away. Aman could only sigh speechlessly. It was finally lunchtime, but as Amani had fallen asleep, it did not feel that much time had passed. Chitose appeared to have done it properly this time, and there was salad, quiche, bisque, and sautéed prawns. The vibrant colors put together resembled a lunch at a cafe. "Ah, looks good. How is the taste, Mahiru?" "It is fine. Nothing strange was added. I tasted it." "That's good. You're the overthinking one, seriously." I did cook them properly together. You're being rude, Chitose noted angrily, but it was no wonder Amane was somewhat suspicious of her when she would say one thing and take him by surprise in another. He could eat with ease, however, since Mahiru was supervising. Ah, the quiche is from Mahiru. I made Ikun's share. You're dumping the whole thing to him. I made it the size of a palm. It's fine. Hehe, I wonder if Ikun will be happy. Chitose grinned happily, and Mahiru smiled at her. Chitose was a girl who cared for her boyfriend, mischievous streak aside. Amane felt a warmness in his heart as he thought of how Itsuki got a good girlfriend. However, she had a tendency of overdoing things, and it was still a little dangerous to thoroughly trust her. Chitose grinned away, and Amane smiled, clapping his hands together as he looked at the dish prepared before him. Then, itadakimasu. Please do, enjoy the food. She's really a girl after all. A bashful Chitose too was quite attractive. Chapter 80. The Angel's Prank. I'm really sorry. Once Chitose left, Mahiru suddenly apologized to Amane. Amane had no idea why she had to apologize, and he widened his eyes towards her who was next to Hai. She wriggled and fidgeted, her eyebrows lowered. About the prank. Prank. Chitose-san never did anything to you, Amane-kun. But I… Eh? You did? Chitose did mention that she never did anything, and Mahiru said that Chitose never did anything. However, Mahiru never said that she never did anything. Aman never thought about what Mahiru would have done to her, so he unwittingly absolved her from the possibility. It appeared she did, though. She might be feeling guilty when she decided to confess, and she looked a little restless. What did you do? I poked your cheek. Is that even a prank? And then I ruffled your hair while seeing you sleep, Amane-kun. You like to do that, huh, Mahiru? Yes. Is that it? Yes. Mahiru was looking downhearted, and clearly she was showing remorse. But Amane wanted to retort, saying that it was not really a prank. What Mahiru did was mere skinship rather than a prank. If that was a prank, then anything he did to her would have been pranks, and he would be troubled by that. Look, I'm not angry. If that makes you happy, that's fine. I just got careless sleeping in front of others. Right. Thank you. I think it isn't fun to see the sleeping face of someone like me, though. It is cute. You're the only one who'll say a boy's sleeping face is cute. Of course not. Chitose-san said so too. She clearly wants to mess with me. Chitose definitely said it was cute out of her own bemusement. The cute she spoke of was different from Mahiru's, and Aman hoped that Mahiru would not trust her that much. I could not help myself as it was really cute. Help yourself. I poked you however I want. Is poking a guy's face really something to be happy about? Very. Aman himself would say his cheeks were harder than a girl's, and there was no point poking. He had no idea what Mahiru was interested in, but if the act itself was something she would be happy about, he had nothing to complain about. Well, I get how you feel, since your face is fluffy and nice. Aman pulled the same prank Mahiru spoke of, right back at her. Despite that, it was a problem if he was too unrestrained. All he did was to poke her fluffy cheek with his finger. Mahiru's face was soft like a girl's, fluffy and nice. She had no excess fat, and her flesh was tender. She did maintain her skin well, and it was moist and smooth, so nice to feel. Since you touched me, I'll touch you back, Mahiru. Amane excused himself as he gently pinched Mahiru's cheek. Her face was fluffy and bouncy. Mahiru looked displeased as she lifted her face towards Amane. So Amane could not go overboard. He poked his finger on her belly to coax her. Yes, his actions were gentle and cautious, as though he was dealing with a kitten. Nen-en. Mahiru immediately sheathed aside her displeased look and showed a lazy smile, as though she had something in her mouth. Her mouth was sweet, so perhaps there was lots of honey in her mouth. She really lets her guard down. Mahiru was showing such a face after a boy touched her, and Amane was worried by how lax she was. However, he found it awkward once he thought of how she would never let a boy touch her in the first place. Once he realized he had some preferential treatment, He had the urge to slam his head into the back of the sofa. He reached his hand for her chin, trying to suppress his uneasiness and impulse. This time, he tickled her chin as though she was a kitten, and she let out a little shriek. What? What is it? Just some practice for the cat cafe. What are you thinking, using a human as practice? You're like a cat, Mahiru. Well, like a dog and a rabbit too. What do you mean? That's what I mean. It was recently that Aman realized that Mahiru had elements of all three animals. When they first met, she was a very wary cat, but once their relationship improved, she would approach him like a dog meeting humans. To those she was familiar with, she would smile and follow. She was like a rabbit, for Amani felt that rabbits appeared terrified of being alone. Thus he added that, "Well, you want to be doted." Amani stroked her chin before she got sick of it. "The head feels better, though," Mahiru muttered, so he patted her here anyway. He felt she was like a dog in this sense, but he did not say it. "If I am a cat, dog, or rabbit, you are a wolf. Amani-kun, do I look the kind to attack females? No, I do not mean that. Wolves are said to care for their companions, those of their pack. Wolf packs are formed through families, so it might be a little different in this sense. But you really do treasure those you can open your heart to, Amani-kun." It might be as you say. Amane's social circle was really small, and one could use both hands to count the people he was on friendly terms with. I wish that is the case. Wish for what? No, it is nothing. Your hair is fluffy like a wolf. What? That's not unique to a wolf, though. It appeared Mahiru had more to say, but she did not. She ruffled Amani's hair, and Amani let her be without asking any further. Chapter 81. The Angel and the Boys Dress Up. Good morning, Amani-kun. The first thing ordinary people would do when going out together was to meet up. In Amane and Mahiru's case, this first thing was for Mahiru to go to Amani's house. It was a logical conclusion. There was no need to meet elsewhere, for Mahiru's house was next to Amane. On this day, Mahiru's attire was different from usual. "Good morning, you tied your hair, huh?" "I tied it so that it will not be distracting when we play with the kittens." "Does it look weird?" Mahiru had her silky hair, usually draped behind her head, tied in a bun. Clearly she put in the effort to doll herself up on this day, unlike when she was cooking. "No, it really suits you." "That is good," laugh if you want to. "What are you saying out of a sudden? You may think I am being too excited, Amane-kun." Mahiru put her hand on her chest and was wearing clothing a little more revealing. It might seem like she was revealing lots, but it was simply because her white décolleté was exposed, for she was wearing an open-collar chiffon blouse that could be peeked into from time to time. She had long lantern sleeves, and one could vaguely see the upper arm vaguely hidden under the laces from the side opening, which gave an alluring vibe. Of course, Mahiru was wearing undergarments, and the important parts would not be seen from above. Nevertheless, Aman strangely felt some innocence and allure in that feminine look. She was wearing tights, probably because they would be playing with cats. The fine gradients of the legs were emphasized accordingly. She was wearing the floral bracelet Amane bought for her the last time. Amane remembered Mahiru once said that she would treasure and wear it, and his heart felt hot. "I don't think so, but I think you're cuter than usual, Mahiru. I think your parents have taught you to say such words so openly. My dad said that I should praise any girl who dresses up well. I'm not saying this out of courtesy, don't worry." "I believe you, Amane-kun." Mahiru blushed as she held her bag. Aman gave a wry smile and had the urge to pat her head, but he did not. After all, he could not simply ruffle the hair she painstakingly styled. Mahiru blinked as Amani faltered, but it seemed she understood he was worried about her hair, and she too showed a wry smile. She, however, looked at Amani's right hand with pity. "Have you been addicted to patting my head recently, Amani-kun?" Feels nice to stroke, or rather touch. I'll stop if you dislike it, though." I do not dislike it. I wish to pat you when I want to." "I don't mind, but I waxed my hair." Amane dressed handsomely as he was going out with Mahiru. Despite that, he did not put in as much effort as Mahiru. All he did was to tidy his heart. He wore a white V-neck, a denim jacket, and black slim pants. He did not put much effort into dressing himself, and it was all very casual. Aman felt he looked inferior standing next to Mahiru, but given that it was an issue of their facial appearances, that was to be expected. "May I pat?" "It's not like I hate it. Hang on for now, though. We're playing with cats today. I am not thinking of doing so now. It is fine. I see, so I can touch. I usually pat you. It's expected that I can be patted back." Aman did not dislike to be patted by Mahiru. He found it comforting. On the contrary, there was no reason for him to refuse. If this little act could satisfy Mahiru, Amane was more than glad to oblige. Once she easily got his permission, Mahiru was initially at a loss, but soon after, she smiled happily. "I shall pat your head next time, Amane-kun. Today, I shall pat the kittens." "Oh. Let us go then." Yep. They left the same place, and Amane felt a little itchy. They left the house, harboring such thoughts. Aman walked slowly as he paced himself alongside her. Then, he suddenly thought of something and reached his hand towards her. "Give me your hand," Amane said jokingly, and Mahiru's face turned red as she smiled and held Amane's hand. Chapter 82. The Angel, the Cat, and the White Beard. He did research on it to some extent, but when a man entered the cat cafe personally, the space before him was more spacious than he imagined. The duo paid, sanitized their hands with alcohol, entered the cafe, and saw cats everyone. Some were strolling around, some were curled, and some were playing with the customers. Whoa, it's bigger than I thought, and prettier. As the cafe provided food, cleanliness was a must. In spite of that, the cafe was much cleaner than he imagined. The distinct stench of animals could not be detected. It was practically odorless. This shop was very popular, but there were few seats, so that the kittens would not be pressurized. The shop contained a rest area for cats, and the purpose appeared to be for people to share space with the cats, rather than just have fun. The cat cafe charged by hour, and it was rather pricey. Despite that, one would think the price was worth it, given the pretty decorations and the comforting atmospheres. "Fat cats, please look. Amane-kun, this little one looks really cute," Mahiru whispered as she tugged at Amane's sleeve, for there were other cats and customers around. However, her voice contained much excitement. She looked around as she stared at the various cats, her eyes sparkling. Mahiru hardly talked about animals, but it appeared she really loved these cats. Aman too unwittingly smiled as he saw how excited she was. "Yeah, they're really cute. NN. Ah, I think that one is called Silk-chan." It appeared Mahiru did not understand which was the cute one Amane referred to. She had taken the book containing the photos, names, and breed, and pointed at Siamese cat. That cat had black fur on its tail and the area around the face. It had white fur all over its thin limbs. It had distinct blue eyes and carried a regal presence. Mahiru's eyes faltered, and she had the urge to touch. However, the shop forbade sudden contact, so Mahiru knelt down to exchange looks with it before she gently reached her finger to its nose. The twitchy nose sniffed at Mahiru's hand. It seemed this little gesture had Mahiru muttering cute. She probably was fond of cats. Once Silk had a sniff of Mahiru's smell, it gracefully walked away, and immediately Mahiru looked completely despondent. "I don't think it hates you. It just leaves after greeting you." "Is that so?" "Yeah. Just let it get familiar with you. Anyway, let's find a place to sit." Mahiru stood up, and Amane held her hand. They sat at an empty sofa. Finally, they could get a full view of the entire room. It contained various cats. They had just seen a Siamese cat. There was also American Shorthairs, exotic Shorthairs, Russian Blue, Munchkins, Bengals, and various others. Slightly far away from them was an American Shorthair, curled as it sat on a table. A lady seated there was gently caressing it. How cute. Mahiru was clearly looking envious at the other customers. Amane gave a wry smile as he looked at the menu. It appeared the dishes served in this shop were highly rated. The most popular was probably the latte with a cat latte art. There seemed to be a worker who was really good at it, and it was said people often uploaded photos of the latte onto social media. Mahiru kept staring at the cats that were walking around. Aman let her be as he called for the attendant and ordered a signature latte. "I'll order the same for you. Is that all right?" "Hmm? Ah, yes, that is fine." Mahiru's eyes were completely fixated on the cats, and she never noticed Amane. She was fine with both coffee and black tea. Since he had the opportunity, Amane decided to give her a little surprise and did not tell her what he ordered. After a while, the attendant served their drinks with a smile. The attendant slowly put the lattes on the table without ruining the art, nodded, and left. Mahiru in turn stared intently at the latter on the table. "You dislike this?" No, it is really cute." "That's good then." The cup before Mahiru had a latte art of a sleeping cat all curled up, and the cocoa formed its patterns and expression. Amani's had a cat leaning onto the edge of the cup. The latte was finely shaped and looked cute. It was no wonder it was so popular. Mahiru looked completely elated, and probably wanted to save that impression she had as she took photos on her smartphone. For some reason, she looked stunned. "I cannot bring myself to drink it when it looks so cute." Once he heard her mutter, Aman burst out laughing. Please do not laugh at me." No, I was thinking that you're troubled by this cute thing." Because it is a pity to ruin such a cute cat. It's a pity not to drink it." Ooh. While he understood how Mahiru felt, he had a feeling that the latte art would be ruined if left be. The maker would be happy if she were to drink it before it cooled and was ruined. Once he thoroughly appraised the photo, he casually brought the cup to his lips. Ah. He heard a sad groan next to him and did his best not to ruin the art as he drank. The latte tasted good, and the richness of both the coffee and the milk were just right. It was not sweet, but Amain was fine with black coffee. No worries for him here. "Yep, it's good." Mahiru mumbled away once she saw Aman sigh and express his comments, but she hesitated to bring the cup to her mouth. She made sure not to ruin the cat on the latte and cautiously lifted it. It was an amusing and adorable sight that left Amani smiling. "Oui? Why do I feel I am taken for a fool?" "You're thinking too much. Is it good?" "Yes, of course." Mahiru moved the cup away from her lips, and Amane started huffing his shoulders. "What? Why are you laughing?" "Well, you have a white beard on your face." There was a Santa-like white beard near her mouth, as she paid too much attention not to destroy the cat and failed to notice the milk foam. She looked so adorable that Aman instinctively took his smartphone out to take photos. "Ah, you just took a photo? Sorry. Do I have to delete it?" Are you keeping that embarrassing photo?" "It's so cute. Mahiru bit her lips when she heard his eyes, and her cheeks reddened slightly. "Just one," she muttered. The white beard remained on her face as she said so. Amane felt his heart warm as he nodded, resisting the urge to laugh. Chapter 83. The Angel's Moody. Once Amane finished the latte, a cat hopped onto his lap. It was the American Shorthair that was at the table next to them. He had a look at its profile, and the word was cacao. One had to wonder if she was bold or naive as she innocently hopped onto his lap, which disturbed him. Aman understood very well how carefree cats could be, but he was a little restless to have one suddenly approach him. The warmth on his lap was heavier than he thought. She curled up, as thought, declaring his lap as her dominion. This one ain't shy. Amani let Cacao sniff his hand and saw Mahiru looking envious. Once Cacao was done sniffing, she rubbed her face on his palm. He had a feeling she was asking to be patted or hugged, and like how he practiced on Mahiru, he tickled Cacao's chin. Cacao was making a gulping sound with its throat, which was apparent from the way she shook and purred. He felt fuzzy and healed after seeing such cuteness, and continued to pet the cat. He was, however, concerned by Mahiru's envious look beside him, and smiled. "Mahiru, Hand over here. Eh? Yes? Once she reached her hand out, Amani moved his hand from Kakao and put Mahiru's hand near Kakao's cheek. This cat probably was not shy in the slightest and found humans approachable. She probably would let others pet it if they greeted her properly. Kakao had a sniff of Mahiru's hand, let out a relaxed purr, and rubbed her face onto Mahiru's palm. Mahiru seemed very moved, and her eyes were sparkling. Aman-kun, it let me touch. Amani smiled at the exhilarated Mahiru and patted the kitten, combing its fur. It had fluffy, smooth fur, probably because it was better cared for, and did not have an annoying stench. It had a little of its distinct scent. The shop attendants really care for it, Aman thought. Every cat appeared to have good fur and health. None of them were too plump or skinny. They were well cared of, and could freely walk anywhere. So cute. Yes, I am envious of you, Amani-kun. Try asking Kakao. Get it to hop onto your lap. Despite a difference in languages, sign language was unexpectedly effective. Mahiru tried slapping her legs. Over here, Kakao purred, and slowly walked towards Mahiru's lap. Amane looked delighted when he saw how moved Mahiru looked. Aman-kun, look. She is on my lap now. That's good. Try patting her. It appeared Kakao was more fond of Mahiru's soft thighs than Amani's sturdy ones, for she made a shriller purr and rubbed her face on Mahiru's palm. Mahiru beamed as she patted away, and with a wry smile, Amane took out his cell phone to record this sight. Can I take photos now? You may. Mahiru continued patting Kakao. Amane smiled at Mahiru and stood up. There were a few magazines and manga on the wall shelf, so Amane wanted to take a few. This was a cat-themed cafe, but it did not mean he had to keep playing with the cats. The objective was to relax in a place with cats. This little relaxation was also a form of enjoyment. While Mahiru remained mesmerized by Kakao, Amani chose a few books from the shelf, only to notice Silk, who first greeted Mahiru, being at his feet. Amane knelt down, brought his index finger to the cat's nose, and as expected, Silk sniffed at him as a greeting. Silk's gesture too was very cute, and Amane unwittingly relaxed as he looked at it. Once it finished sniffing, its front paw leaned towards Amane's arm, as though leaping over. Meow, it made a shriller voice than Kakao, as it leaned towards Amane. Amane sat on the floor, cross-legged. Silk might appear regal, but it appeared to be rather fond of people. Once Aman got permission to touch, he petted it, and it looked delighted. It continued to purr and lean over, and that probably was the signal indicating that it wanted to be patted more. Using his fingers, Aman gently caressed Silk-sama, fulfilling its desire. Itsuki had a cat at his place, so Amane had some knowledge on how to deal with them. He knew how to improve a cat's mood, how to make it fawn. Amane kept changing his actions accordingly. So cute. Amane's lips curled into a smile as he felt its throat throbbing. Silk was initially aloof, and Aman never expected it to fawn so much after he was allowed to touch. I was wondering who it resembled, but Mahiru. Mahiru too was initially aloof and had an unapproachable vibe. Once she opened up, however, she would give him a look of trust, and sometimes careless when she fawned over him. Aman always felt she had some traits of a cat, but actually she really resembled one, no? He quietly dubbed Silk Angel number 2 and patted it in ways to make it comfortable. Then, he suddenly heard a camera shutter. He lifted his head and found Mahiru close to him, with smartphone in hand. I was wondering why you are so slow. When did you become so close with Silk-chan? I don't know how, but it just let me touch it. How sleazy. I too want... Where's Kakao? Cats really are capricious creatures. It appeared Kakao ran somewhere else. Aman looked around the cafe and found Kakao curled on the second level of the cat rack. Just a moment ago, she let Mahiru pet it, and perhaps she lost interest. Do you like Silk-chan, Amani-kun? No, I can't say since I haven't touched it completely. But well, I think it's really similar to you in a few ways. So I had the urge to pat it. Similar, yes. You're standoffish at first, but once we got closer, you want to fawn around. Aman, however, felt that while Mahiru's carelessness and urge to fawn were similar to a cat, the desire to gain full trust and seek attention was like a dog. He could not deny that she had a combination of both cat and dog traits. Mahiru herself had instinctively relied on Amani and fawned on him, which made him happy and yet embarrassed. I am not a cat, and I do not simply approach anyone. Yeah, you're more wary after all. Are you thinking that I am a cat? No, no, no. Amani patted the cat as he usually did to Mahiru. Right? He asked Silk. Silk purred, either out of coincidence or keen observation, and because of this, Mahiru could not ask any further. Nevertheless, Mahiru looked displeased towards Amani, and Amani used his left hand, which never touched the cat, to pat Mahiru. You are thinking of me as a cat. All right, all right. Come on, play with Silk, Mahiru. I think you can borrow toys from the receptionist. Please do not try to pull a fast one. You don't want to play with it. Amani fooled around with Silk as he asked Mahiru, "How sleazy, Amani-kun?" Mahiru muttered and went to borrow toys. Aman had intended for Mahiru to play with the cat while he borrowed and widened his eyes when he saw Mahiru like that. Then he saw that slightly pouty look on her face and was utterly confused. What does she mean, sleazy? Is it about me playing with Silk? He muttered, wondering why Mahiru showed such a face. How would I know? Silk purred and rubbed its forehead onto Amane's palm. Chapter 84. The Angel's Unexpected Weakness. Ultimately, Amani did not know the reason why Mahiru pouted, but her mood seemed to improve when she played with the cat, and she finally smiled at Amani. Midway through, she ignored Amin and started playing with the cats. Amin gave her a wry smile, but for some reason the cat started hogging his lap. Once she saw that, Mahiru pouted once again. Goodness me. Silk, however, gave such a look as its seat on her lap, which calmed her down. When Amani doted on the cats, the other cats started gathering around him, even though he never provided snacks for them. Perhaps it was because they were fond of him. After such a precious experience, the happy time with the cats ended. The duo cleaned the fur off their hands and washed them. While Mahiru was washing, Amani went to pay, and then Mahiru gave him a slightly displeased look. Why are you making such a face? You do not have to care for me this much, Amane-kun. That's not it. I'm also doing this for my own pleasure. Don't worry. Aman said that he would pay, and he did not need Mahiru to worry about this. Well, I'm really grateful that you're willing to enter a cat cafe with someone like me, a place that I'm embarrassed to enter alone, right? But you should be a little more selfish. If you can't accept this, how about we come back again the next time? This will only be to my benefit, though. It benefits me too. It's a win-win. No problems, right? He chuckled. Mahiru pursed her lips, leaned her head on Amani's arm, and held his hand once again. After they had lunch at a highly rated restaurant, they went to a large shopping mall. On a side note, the food was really delicious and lived up to its rating. Aman had a personal preference towards Mahiru's cooking, however, and once again he realized that Mahiru's cooking was the best. As it was Golden Week, there were more customers in the shopping mall than usual. As he held Mahiru's hand firmly, Aman leaned on the wall, wondering what they should do next. Anyway, what are we going to do in this shopping mall? We say we're shopping, but do you have anything you want? And nothing in particular. I think I will be happy with a little window shopping though, see, can't we? No, 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 of course we can't. I don't dislike the idea of window shopping. Back home, Amani was often dragged along by his mother, and often went shopping with his family. He had some immunity to these acts any male would have suffered over. Also, it might be interesting to bring Mahiru out window shopping. Where do we start? General store? Clothes? Interior design? There's lots of them. This large shopping mall had countless shops for clothes, food, general goods, or even amusement. There was a myriad of them, and the mall was so big, one would be unable to finish shopping in a day. They could not see them all, so there was a need to narrow the list to the smallest possible. Then shall we start from clothes? Sure. You want to buy new clothes? If there are good ones, summer clothes are stocked, and I want to buy some new ones. Summer, huh? That's fast. The sweltering season would arrive soon, but at this point there was only warm sun shining upon them. Amani felt it was too hasty for them to buy summer clothes. It was common sense to purchase items before the season, but Amane could not let go of the spring. This summer, you're going to my hometown too, right, Mahiru? Ah, yes, if Shihoko-san and you do not mind. She nodded, probably remembering Amani's suggestion to follow him to his hometown. I asked Mom once after that, and she said it's fine. Well, I expected that. Shihoko surely would have agreed to that even if he never checked with her, but he did since they would have to prepare a room. She's very welcomed here. That was the reply. He probably would be returning home with Mahiru this summer. Well, there's not a lot of things to do at my hometown. A lot of leisure facilities, though. Is that so? Yep, lots of them. There's no end to the places Mom brought me to. Shopping malls like this, ridiculously large national parks, ridiculously large water parks. It was not a big city, but it was no village. It was never boring at his hometown during summer and winter, as it was a suitable geographic location. On the contrary, they might not have the chance to rest. It was a good place to kill time at. The water parks would be opened in the summer, and it would be enjoyable to sit on the slides or slowly swim about. At school, swimming's an elective, so there's no chance of that if don't chance it. Maybe it's a good idea to go swimming at the pool there, Mahiru. It is nothing. Don't worry. I'm not thinking of anything indecent like seeing you in your swimsuit, you know? I can go alone if you're unwilling. I have no such misunderstanding. But the peepool. Is there a problem? Aman felt that it was not strange to naturally think of the pool when it came to summer, but Mahiru shook her head somewhat stiffly. Well. I may consider, going too, if we do not have to swim. Wait, you can't swim? Mahiru looked aside. It seemed Amane assumed correctly. I thought you can do anything. That is not the case. Since swimming is an elective, I assumed I did not need to tell anyone. Her face reddened increasingly, surely due to shame. But well, that's surprising. We have talked enough about swimming, no? Come on, let us go. It appeared Mahiru did not really want to talk about swimming, for her face was flushed as she pulled Amane's hand. Actually, she leaned her body onto his arm, swinging and seemingly lifting it. Amane knew that Mahiru was dragging him off because she wanted to avoid this topic, but it was a bad posture to assume. Fabrics would thin accordingly, while the seasons got hotter. Mahiru's chiffon blouse was rather fluffy, and the fabric was thin. One could see her beautiful skin through the open décolleté. The undergarments covered much, but to Amane, the parts closing in were visible, and even touching him. But if he pointed that out, it was likely she would blush and escape. He did not say anything, and gently moved his arm away from her before holding her hand. He wryly noted to himself that he would not have suffered if he could earnestly enjoy those soft parts. The first thing he felt was guilt, however, and he was merely a coward. Okay, don't run, you'll fall. I am not a child. Mahiru turned her head aside, not knowing how rattled Amane was. Amane then seized the chance to look slightly outwards, avoiding her eyes. He desperately purged the soft sensation that lingered on his arm and sighed so softly that she could not hear him. Chapter 85. The Angel and Amane's Recommendation. Amane was dragged by the hand and had a thought that Mahiru really attracted much attention. Usually dubbed the Angel, she looked innocent and pretty. At this moment she was fully showing how carefree she was, looking so adorable that others had the urge to protect and pet her. When in angel mode, Mahiru would exhibit a painting-like beauty and fragility, looking so unapproachable. However, the overly delicate beauty looked so artificial and felt a little lacking in life to Amane. Mahiru, holding his hand like this, gave such a pure smile and looked really vigorous. Even though she never voiced out the "I'm so happy," emotion could be felt from her hand holding his and her strides. Her conservative smile was pretty, but this utterly elated smile looked a lot more adorable than the facade she mustered. What is it? Nothing. Just that there's a lot of stairs when I'm walking with you. Male and female gazes were looking at them, and once again, Aman realized that Mahiru was a beautiful girl. I think not all of them are looking at me, you know? Yeah, guess some are sizing me up as your attendant. I am not referring to this, goodness. Mahiru lifted her head towards Amane unhappily, but she held his hand firmly again, probably not wanting to continue this conversation. It is a bother how Amane-kun has no self-awareness, she muttered. But Amane knew people would be looking at him walking alongside Mahiru. It was obvious that Amane looked inferior, and not a matter of self-awareness. Well, I shall explain to you slowly until you understand. Ak, why does that sound scary? It is rude to say that is scary. It is your fault after all, you know? She poked her index finger onto his nose, shushing him. However, she showed an impish smile, and did not seem to have her mood ruined as she continued to tap. She then pulled Amane's hand after being seemingly satisfied. To be precise, she leaned her body onto Amane's arm. This would be easier if you have more self-confidence. Mahiru muttered as she leaned her forehead onto Amane's elbow. Amane had enough and averted his eyes. Mahiru-san. What is it? You're doing it on purpose, right? Purpose? Well, your chest's touching me. Whether she actually meant for it, he hoped she would spare him when he mentioned this, and Mahiru jolted away like a bullet. He tried to suppress his blush as he looked towards Mahiru and found her completely beetroot. Not at all. I can tell from your reaction. You'll subconsciously lean onto those you're familiar with, like just now. Pay attention to that. As a male, Aman was very sensitive to a female's body. He had normal desires, and he would have urges to touch breasts if he were allowed to. Thus, he hoped Mahiru would pay attention. Mahiru surely would loathe such desires, so Amane never expressed it, but the subconscious temptation was arduous. Mahiru's face turned completely red once she realized how potently murderous her breasts could be, and kept her lips sealed as she shivered. Aman gave a wry smile and pulled his distance slightly. He felt that she felt embarrassed or displeased to realize this, and pulled his distance because of her concerns. Mahiru seemed a little hurt, however, as she looked up at Amane. Please do not let go. I may get lost, it is bad to lose my way. Naturally, Aman could not refuse when she looked up at him, and harbored the shame that never faded completely as he timidly held her hand. He grasped her little palm like before, and her still blushing face showed a relieved smile. They reverted back to their usual distance, their bodies close but not touching. I did not intend to. And, if it is you, I am fine with a little Amane-kun. I'll get carried away if you say that, so don't. This little whisper had Amane's heart pounding, but he realized that Mahiru might be saying she would not be angry if it was someone she was familiar with. He quietly exhaled. He felt he would get carried away, and many aspects would go awry if he did not show restraint, like his heart, his sanity, and others. Look, the clothes on that mannequin seem to suit you, Mahiru. Shall we have a look? Aman pointed with his empty hand to conceal his searing face. Is that what you like? Mahiru showed interest, and the duo naturally went over to that shop. Is this it? Yes. Everything suits you, Mahiru. But I think this is rather decent. The mannequin was wearing a white-based, thin striped off-shoulder one-piece dress atop its white body. It was really suited for a thin female with a wonderful décolleté, and Amani it would surely go well with Mahiru. He stared at Mahiru as she stood next to the mannequin and imagined her wearing that clothing. He soon imagined a refreshing vibe to her. It would be a really suitable image, especially when paired with a straw hat. I shall try it on. Mahiru quickly decided, as though she had planned to do so, and took the same clothing hanging next to the mannequin. Aman was a little taken aback seeing her being strangely riled up. Mahiru had Amani hold her bag and hurriedly vanished into the changing room. Why is she so agitated? Aman wondered as he waited for Mahiru to change. The surrounding warm stares had him increasingly confused. The attendants, and even the surrounding customers were smiling at him, and he felt very uncomfortable. Please hurry back, he earnestly thought as he waited. Finally, the changing room curtain was pulled aside, and Mahiru exited. However, she did not change. Ah, you're back, you didn't change? No, I have checked the sizes. Butterm, I cannot show you because of my undergarments. So sorry. He could see the décolleté even though she was wearing the chiffon blouse. But even then, the exposure was nothing compared to the open-shoulder dress. It was said that one had to wear different undergarments under an open-shoulder dress. She probably was unable to do so at this point. You say it suits me though, Amane-kun. I have taken a liking to it after trying it on, so I shall buy it. Mahiru received her bag from Amane and took the dress to the cashier. Amane hastily gave chest. Amane felt that since he said it suited Mahiru, he should be the one paying. He prepared to frisk his wallet, but Mahiru stopped him from rummaging further. No, I shall buy it and show it off to you, Aman-kun. Okay, but I cannot wear it until it gets hotter. This shall have to wait until summer. Please look forward to it, Mahiru said bashfully. Amane kept his lips shut and barely managed to not end up tumbling onto the floor. Damn, why does she sound so cute when she says this? Amane had a feeling she was implying that she was wearing it for him, and his heart felt unbearable. He met the eyes of the cashiers, received a sincere, beaming smile in response, and could only bite his lips and look aside. Chapter 86. The Angel and the Game Center. And this is the Game Center. After their window shopping, or rather shopping since they bought clothes, Amane accompanied Mahiru to the game center he usually frequented. They had no plans beyond this, other than to return home, and took their time. It is loud. Ah, that's most of the game centers. Mahiru frowned slightly. The noises here would leave anyone unfamiliar with game centers really frustrated. Amane was fine, however, as he was used to it. It was noisier at the slot machines and arcade games, so Amane avoided that area as he lazily led Mahiru past there. So, what are we doing? I want to try the crane game and catch a doll. It appeared Mahiru was aiming for the crane game, and once she was led to that area, she clenched and relaxed her fists several times when she saw the machines. She looked really excited. It was Golden Week, and there were more dolls, especially the cute family-oriented ones. There were many dolls Mahiru might like. Amane-kun, I wish to pick that one. Which one? That one. Does she not resemble that cat, Silk-chan? Mahiru pointed at a white cat doll with some charred tea-colored fur near her face. The blue eyes did truly resemble the cat they met at the cafe. It appeared Mahiru was really interested as it really resembled Silk, which Mahiru first encountered. Sure does, you want it. I want to try. May I? Sure. The cranes here are easier. If you can't, leave it to me. I will try my best not to trouble you. Mahiru looked enthused in challenging the crane machine, and Amane chose to watch. Aman could nab the doll immediately, but since Mahiru was the one who requested, he felt it was better to acknowledge her independence and competitiveness. Mahiru inserted the coin, cautiously touched the knob to move the crane horizontally, and affirmed the situation. The cautious Mahiru probably wanted to be sure how long it would take until she could move the crane. However, such crane arms would automatically move vertically once the user let go. It cannot move. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. This machine will move vertically once you let go. You only have one chance. Ah? In other words, there's no way to get the doll. At this point, the doll was in the middle of an empty area. The crane was positioned slightly away from the drop zone and would only move vertically thereafter. There was no way to salvage it or even poke at the doll. There were some that had a joystick allowing it to move around, and some were time-limited, but this was a button type, and she could not redo it. It was a common issue to anyone playing this game for the first time, one they had to live with. Well, you wasted 100 yen, but since you can move the crane sideways, use this chance to figure out the speed and the lag in releasing the button, and make use of it next time. Ooh, I shall do so. It is my fault for being careless, Mahiru said, moved the crane arm seriously. and grasped its speed. A man felt responsible for not reminding her, so he discreetly slipped a coin in and was met with a displeased look from Mahiru. All right, a man said as he patted her on the back, prompting her on, and she returned to the crane game. She managed to align the crane with the doll, for she grasped its speed. Though she missed the center of gravity slightly, she could still catch the doll at this position. It was possible for her to catch if she considered the center of gravity, the crane grip, and the timing to let go. Not bad for a beginner, Amane thought as he watched over her. Mahiru cautiously moved the crane arms, finally moved it above the doll, and tried to pull it up. She aimed well, but as the item was a little longer, the doll quickly dropped off despite the firm grip of the crane. Moo. Too bad. You should push it sideways using the crane instead of grabbing it. It'll be easier to use its center of gravity to nudge it off. Luckily, the partition to the drop zone was not that tall. A single nudge should do the trick. Mahiru blinked and obediently did as told. A virtue Mahiru had was that she was never one to be completely stubborn and would obediently listen to any advice given to her. After she considered the position of the crane and the doll's center of gravity. Over here, use the head. Flip it over, she continued with her trial and error. Amane gave a smirk when he saw Mahiru's serious face reflected off the mirror. She slotted coins a few times, and after a little while, managed to flip the doll into the drop zone. Ah, she muttered, and the doll landed in the receiving box. After a short silence, Mahiru looked up at Amane blankly. I did it. Oh, nice going. That's proof that you worked hard. Aman took out the doll that was won after a grueling duel and handed it to Mahiru. She finally felt a sense of success, and an elated look of joy appeared on her pretty face. I did it. I did it. Amane-kun. You did. It's your first time, but you did great. Amane patted Mahiru's head, and she narrowed her eyes bashfully, embracing the doll resembling silk in her clutches. She appeared really delighted that she won the doll and looked completely overjoyed as her cheek clung onto the doll. She embraced the doll firmly in her clutches with an innocent smile. Amane felt jealous of the doll and felt his self-control was insufficient. One moment, she was happily hugging the doll, and the next moment, she timidly turned the doll towards Amane. Amane, will you like to keep it? Me? I did receive one from you, and I feel you like Silk-chan, Amane-kun. Aman liked Silk because he was fond of cats, but the bigger reason was that it resembled Mahiru and was adorable. He did not say it out, however, as he nodded and scratched his cheek. Do men dislike dolls after all? No, that's not it. Are you fine giving me this when you worked so hard? I worked hard because of you, Amane-kun. No, I'm not going to force you to accept, but I thought you might like this doll, just as you like Silk-chan. I can put it in my room if you do not want it, Mahiru said, and lowered her shoulders, looking slightly devastated, and looked up at him uneasily. Amane could not refuse. I'll put it in my room then, though I can't put it by my pillow like you, Mahiru. I hope you will forget about that matter. I'll treasure this well. Amane solemnly received the doll and took a bag used to contain prizes next to the machine, slotting the doll in. Mahiru smiled immediately, and once Amane was about to reach out towards her again. Shina-san? He froze once he heard the voice next to them. Mahiru too froze, and the duo turned towards the voice gingerly. Standing there was the friendly yet dignified boy with a handsome face they encountered often recently, Katawaki. Chapter 87. The Prince's Questions. Katawaki-san. Mahiru immediately switched the angelic smile she showed at school the moment she saw Katawaki. However, this smile was a little stiff compared to usual, probably because she was internally rattled. Amane knew that there was a huge possibility of them meeting their classmates during Golden Week, but he never expected the one person he interacted with recently to be here. It's surprising to see you here, Shina-san. Am I disturbing? Katawaki frowned, looking troubled once he saw Aman. It appeared he had yet to recognize the latter, but the gig would be up if Amane spoke. Katawaki was an observant one and might actually notice it was Amani. No, actually, it's the first time hearing that you have a lover. That is not our relationship, though. Mahiru flatly denied it, and Amani felt his heart aching. However, both of them were definitely not dating, so this denial was to be expected. It would be weird for her to confirm it, however, and he had nothing to look forward to. B. But clearly it's, Perplexed by Mahiru's stubbornness, Katawaki was about to question her further, only to suddenly look towards Amane. The moment their eyes met, Amane's face twitched. Katawaki stared at Amane, looking completely mystified. It was a horrible situation for Amane. Fujimiya, as expected, he recognized Amane. They never interacted with each other for long, but Amane knew Katawaki was really insightful. They were on better terms, and it appeared even though Amane had tidied his hair and dressed differently, he could not fool Katawaki. Nobody would have associated Amane's current appearance to his usual self unless they were close enough and observed his face closely. It appeared this was not the case of Katawaki, however. Fujimiya, right? On a closer look, your height and face. So you two have contact at school because you two know each other? No. Katawaki seemed confident when Mahiru stammered away. He looked back and forth between Amane and Mahiru, and was a little shocked. There was plausible deniability back then since Amane and Mahiru never talked at school, but that would not work this time. Amane sighed, put his hand on his forehead, and looked towards an incredulous and stunned Katawaki. How did you figure out it was me? I guessed so. Well, I can tell it's you by your face and the vibe you give, Fujimiya. Am I that recognizable? Actually, no. I think even our classmates can't tell. You don't really make such an expression after all. Amane did not know exactly what was the expression Katawaki referred to, but he was relieved for the time being since nobody would associate his appearance with that. But it's surprising that you two are in a relationship. It appears we can't hide it anymore. Well, it's as you say, Katawaki. We know each other before our second year. I admit that she and I on good terms, but it's not the relationship you think of. Is that so? Yes. Mahiru flatly denied it, so Amane did the same, however he was sad to admit it. Surely Mahiru would find it awkward if the misunderstanding continued. While Amane was not particularly worried about this, he too would feel awkward if Katawaki had strange thoughts and blurted it out. He had to shush Katawaki. Once Amane took this firm stance, Mahiru tugged at the hem of his shirt and looked at him. She appeared to have something to say, but she never did, so he ignored her for the time being. One had to wonder if Katawaki was convinced of this explanation after seeing their faces and merely shrugged. I guess so, just like Itsuki said. What? Amane naturally narrowed his eyes once he assumed Itsuki blurted something. It's not what you're worried about, though, Katawaki chuckled. Well, he said that you're handsome when you put in the effort to dress up, and that your clothes suit you. It sounds like you're mocking me here, Katawaki. Katawaki was the most handsome boy in their year, and could possibly the most handsome in their school. Amane could only smile wryly at that praise. Katawaki was a typical handsome chap who did not have to work to maintain his image. Amane had to put in effort to look above average, so naturally he was envious of people like Katawaki, though not to the level of outright jealousy. However, he felt that his life might look a little brighter if he were reincarnated into someone like Katawaki. That's not what I mean. It'll be great if you're usually like this, though. Don't wanna. It's troublesome. And also, I'll stand out if I suddenly show up at school like this. You say that, but Shiina-san, you know that Fujimiya can look like this, huh? Well, yes. Mahiru affirmed as she nodded gingerly, and Katawaki then stared at her unflinchingly. He did not appear to be suspicious or sizing her up. It appeared that he wanted to confirm something when he looked at her. I think I get it. Get what? You really have it tough, Shiina-san. Mahiru's body shivered when she heard that. You're unexpectedly easy to understand, Shiina-san. Katawaki chuckled. He showed a faint smile, a somewhat warm, yet forlorn and envious look. Katawaki-san. I hope you will not mention this to anyone, about how we are on good terms and so on. I will be troubled if you do. Mahiru wanted to shush Katawaki, who immediately nodded. You don't have to worry about that. I can tell why you two are so hesitant. I don't have any interest in spreading rumors, when you two obviously don't wish to. Amane had never been so grateful for Katawaki's fine personality. Perhaps Katawaki had a similar experience. He was popular with the girls, and was the target of envy from boys. He also mentioned before that if he showed fondness of a girl, she would be targeted by the others. Perhaps his grumbles might be due to his own experiences. Anyone would feel weird seeing an unimpressive-looking boy like Aman being together with the angel who was friendly towards anyone, even though they were just friends and not dating. Amane was really grateful that Katawaki kept mum after considering all these. Sorry about that, Katawaki. It's fine. I think this is normal. I don't want our relationship to break just because of this little thing when we're rather close already. Fujimiya. Aman thoroughly understood why Katawaki was so popular when the latter showed a hearty smile. Even as a boy, Katawaki was a good man who was honest and easily approachable. He was charismatic to the girls and had good external and internal qualities. It would be difficult for males to accept this, however. Ah, yes, Fujimiya. Be seeing you 2 days later. Katawaki hinted at the day he, Itsuki and Amane would be going to karaoke. He implied that he would be asking more from Amane on that day. Katawaki showed an impish smile once their eyes met. Amane felt a little uneasy. Oh, but he replied so as he trusted Katawaki. Mahiru looked a little envious as she watched both Amane and Katawaki. Chapter 88. The Talk After Reaching Home. For some reason I feel sorry. Once they bade Katawaki farewell, the duo played a little longer at the game center before returning home. After that, Amane apologized to Mahiru, who was on the sofa. Mahiru undid the hair she tied, and she widened her eyes once she said this. Why do you say so? Well, Katawaki knows now. That was unforeseen. The outcome is fine, since he does understand. She was right to put it that way, but she probably was frustrated, wondering if others thought she was dating anyone. They were lucky that Katawaki understood them, and left heartily, but Amani's heart still ached to hear Mahiru deny so flatly. I did not think this would not be exposed when we went out. I did think it may happen. I am grateful that it so happened to be Katawaki-san. Well, yeah, Katawaki really understands us in many ways, and is being considerate to us. He's really a good guy. They were lucky it was Katawaki. While Katawaki would be questioning Amane later, perhaps it was the right choice to reveal the situation and not feel the guilt of hiding this matter. Amane might end up teased during karaoke, but Katawaki and Itsuki knew their limits, and probably would not go overboard. You really fancy Katawaki-san? Sorta. Since we got more chances to talk, I get that he's a really good guy. Why he's that popular? He's amazing, both on the inside and the outside. You really trust him? Yep, I think he's trustworthy. Amane was aware that he was very picky about his friends. If the other person had a bad reputation, Amane would try to stay away and would never allow the person to approach. He had a habit of being wary of others, yet this alarm never rang near Katawaki. He instinctively sensed that Katawaki was a good person. Because of that, Amane was not too anxious about this matter being revealed. He felt it was the right decision, so this is what they mean by birds of a feather flock together. I don't know how I'm the same as him. You are being self-deprecating again. Amane-kun Katawaki-san approached you because he thought you are a good person. No? Is it not the same logic as how you view him? You find Katawaki-san trustworthy, and he recognizes you as a person. You should be more confident. Mahiru said confidently as she poked her finger at Amane's cheek. He smiled wryly. He could never defeat Mahiru. Rather, whenever he denied himself, she would voice her confidence in him, and he was really grateful for such an existence. Please be more confident in yourself. Mahiru went into lecture mode, and Amani's shoulders were huffing from giggling as he thanked her. You've always been thanking me, Mahiru. This is proper praise. It is your fault for denying yourself, Amane-kun. That's a habit. Why did you have such a habit? Goodness. Mahiru muttered dumbfoundedly. Once she asked why, Aman had difficulty answering. Aman knew the reason why he became like this and recognized he had a problem, but certain things were pointless even though he knew. It was a bitter memory. It was the past to him. But he had some lingering after effects. He knew it was a bad habit, but he could not change it completely. He felt that he should take notice before Mahiru mentioned it, even though it probably would not be changed that easily. Well, I'll keep it in mind, say Mahiru. Yes? Thanks. Aman's biggest happiness was to meet someone who would acknowledge him when he denied himself. He merely stated what he thought, but Mahiru gave him a shocked look and leaned on his shoulder. Aman-kun, you really… Really? Nothing at all. Baka, Mahiru muttered, pressed her forehead on his shoulder, and turned around. Amani did not understand, but he let Mahiru continue as she pleased. Chapter 89. Karaoke and Practice. So, shall we hear an explanation of what happened 2 days ago? It was 2 days after Amani went out with Mahiru. Aman, Itsuki, and Kadawaki went out for karaoke, and once they entered the booked suite, Kadawaki immediately smiled at Amani. Amani steeled himself for Kadawaki's questions, but he felt awkward after all. On a side note, it appeared Itsuki had known from Kadawaki and was giving a, busted face, yet clearly not hiding his joy. Amane got himself some melon soda from the self-service kiosk, had a sip to quench his throat, and said reluctantly, "It's not really some big relationship. Mahiru and I are just neighbors. Itsuki and Chitose found out because of an accident. It's a coincidence that we're neighbors, though. Some things happened thereafter, and our relationship got closer." So you two got closer, and went out together. Sorta. Objectively looking, Amani and Mahiru were no mere acquaintances. They were clearly friends, or even lovers. Aman felt that he had to deny this with all his might, for the sake of Mahiru's honor. "We don't have that sort of relationship you're thinking of, Kadawaki. I don't think it's exactly what you say, Fujimiya. I say, they're not just on friendly terms, seriously. Shiina-san's been cooking for him every day." Eh? Itsuki threw a bomb, and Amani's cheeks froze as he glared at the former. Itsuki. It's a matter of time until everything gets exposed. Better to say it out quickly. Itsuki might be correct here. But Kadawaki would surely be mistaken since he suddenly heard that Amane had been eating Mahiru's cooking every day. A commuting wife? No, I'm living by myself, so we split the costs evenly. It's just more convenient for her to cook. You believe it? It's not convincing at all. You too, Kadawaki. Aman and Mahiru were definitely not lovers, but Amani strangely lost confidence when Kadawaki glanced aside at him dumbfoundedly. Well, Amani hardly had confidence to begin with. Normally speaking, girls don't go to those they dislike, and they don't enter a boy's room if they're not comfortable with it. It's a different case if the girl wants to be attacked, however. For some strange reason, Aman had a feeling that the last quip was out of personal experience, and started to wonder how tricky the girls Kadawaki knew of were. Kadawaki was right, however, and Amani could not deny it completely at all. Girls, especially those as wary as Mahiru, would never approach boys on their own volition. It appeared that Amani did become close with Mahiru, but that was miraculous by itself. He knew very well that he had received preferential treatment from her. Aman, however, did not think he had enough charm for a girl to fall for him. He had the nagging feeling that Mahiru got close to him and trusted him to the point where she was actually relying on him. "Fujimiya, you're strangely stubborn and lacking in confidence sometimes." "Yeah." Itsuki and Kadawaki gave stunned looks, leaving Amani very uncomfortable. "So, do you like Shiina-san or not, Fujimiya?" The moment Amani tried to pass this off by sipping at the melon soda, Kadawaki suddenly delivered a haymaker, resulting in him nearly spitting out the soda. "What's with that out of a sudden? Ah, you look very wary. So since you two are basically living together, I think you do like her somewhat. Actually, I can tell from your eyes and mood that you really like her." "Can't I like her?" Kadawaki's really an observant one. Aman bitterly thought as he nodded honestly. And for some reason, Kadawaki gave a wry look. "And not that you can't. But, well, looks like there's lots of tough issues to tackle. I haven't thought about going out with Mahiru. Uh-huh, and you don't understand. Just like the last time. Look, even Itsuki's giving you that look. Well, yeah, I feel like giving him a kick in the back. I get what you mean. Don't agree with each other on this. Amane was confused as to why Katawaki agreed with Itsuki's urge to kick Amane in the back. But see, we're worried about you. You should take the initiative. Don't put me in a spot. No. Shiina-san has opened her heart to you. Take the initiative to conquer her. Mahiru does like me to some extent. I think that it's not that she likes me outright, but that she mostly relies on me. Itsuki's words might sound easy, but it was never going to be that simple. Amon knew that Mahiru did have feelings for him. He would admit that Mahiru treasured him more than any other boy. However, he did not think it was fondness as a girl. Instead of a love between boy and girl, it might be more akin to trust and reliance, for they knew everything about each other. See, you're saying that with that look? What's attractive about me anyway? Amane refuted, and Itsuki immediately slapped him in the back. Ow. Sorry, but you really have no confidence in yourself. You always try to run away when the stakes are highest. Even if you say so, I can't help it. It's habit. You should start changing that habit. You really look down on yourself. Mahiru always says that. Shiina-san sure has it tough, huh? We're having it tough just looking at them. This guy's really stubborn about such things. Shut up. Amane was starting to feel he was the one at fault after so many people had criticized him. It was due to his personality. Nothing he could do. It was not that simple to correct it. The painful memories would never vanish easily. It was not easy to forget at the drop of a hat when it happened not too long ago. He understood he was cowardly, embarrassingly cowardly, but he was powerless to correct it. I'm not going to force you if you think that's fine. If you really like Shiina-san, though, and you want to date her, put in effort. You think I can do that? Coward. Shut up. All right. But I think you can be a little more confident, Fujimiya. Seriously, you'll be very popular at school if you dress up like you did 2 days ago. Want some practice? Practice? Since you can do it before Shiina-san and me, I guess that means you can do this before those you're close with. Say, it's rare that we get to play on vacation, right? In other words, we have wax over here. Katawaki pulled out a male makeup set from his bag. Amane met Katawaki in the eyes and found the latter giving a very genial smile. Faced with the elegance of this smiling prince, however, he felt a shiver up his spine. Shall we? No, forget about it. Come on, don't worry. Wait, let's have karaoke. We're here for karaoke, right? Of course. I'll leave it to you then, Itsuki. Leave it to me. You're joking, right? Amane asked timidly, and was met with a hearty smile. We can stop if you hate it. But it's time for you to start getting used to stares. Better to give some bitter medicine. Hey, wait, whoa. Itsuki grinned with comb and wax in hands. Amane tried to backtrack, but there was nowhere for him to escape in a karaoke suite. Katawaki prepared to sing with a smile on his face, and Amane looked on as Itsuki messed with his hair. Chapter 90. The Angel and Roasted Mochi. Welcome back. Amane returned home, and Mahiru welcomed him with a confused tone. Hamburger steak was on the menu, and Mahiru probably came to Amane's house earlier to prepare everything from the sauce. Dinner is almost ready. Amane knew she was at his place as he received this message. Nevertheless, he felt peaceful seeing Mahiru's face. I'm back. You seem tired? Itsuki tortured me. Itsuki never saw the hairstyle back then, so he fiddled Amane's hair into one he felt was cool. Amane, however, was troubled as he was unused to this attire. They then led Amane into a shop which sold clothes Amane never had. They ended up mixing and matching clothes on Amane. Amane did not dislike it, but it was tiring to have these two choosing clothes for him. Is that so? I suppose you are really tired. Those guys treated me like a toy. It is tough on you. Aman was not as unhappy as he said. Mahiru might have realized this when she smiled and coaxed him. Aman felt gaudy about Mahiru seeing through him. At the same time, he tossed the bag of new clothes into his room and went to wash his hands at the washroom. Mahiru returned to the kitchen to serve dinner. Aman washed his hands, rinsed his mouth, and returned to the living room. She then served the plate of hamburger on the dining table. Aman went to the kitchen to scoop the rice like usual, as he would feel sorry for not doing anything. He liked to have his steak with rice, and smiled when he had a whiff of the sweet fragrance of this freshly cooked rice. I'm really tired. But honestly, I think those two are amazing. How so? Amane served the salad and the potage on the table, sat down and muttered so. Opposite him, Mahiru tilted her head. Like, when we were walking, many people talked to us. It feels like those popular ones are really different. I see that they're very experienced and skilled in dealing with these people. A few college girls came to talk during their shopping trip after their karaoke session. They were rather different in build, but Itsuki and Kadoaki were rather handsome and were often the attention of females. There were people trying to woo them. Of course, both of them naturally rejected these advances. Itsuki had his beloved Chitose, and the prince really had difficulties dealing with females who took the initiative as he smiled away without letting his guard down, quickly rejecting them. He was polite in his words and attitude, and did not hurt their pride. They managed to escape without much of a dispute. Amain was amazed by their methods. Did anyone approach you? There were, but I was just a tag-along. Truth be told, they were aiming for those too, and Amain was just along for the ride. Amain knew his attitude was dour, and strangers would have difficulty talking to him. Obviously, Amane would look inferior next to two handsome chaps. None of them went right for Amane while ignoring the other two. Amane shrugged and gave a wry smile, and for some reason, Mahiru made a little pout. What? You're going to say that I lack confidence? That too, but it is not the issue I have. What do you mean? You do not have to know. Mahiru turned her face aside. Itadakimasu, and clapped her hands together. Amane was troubled, but like her, he clapped his hands together, giving thanks for dinner and Mahiru. After Aman left, the two continued their conversation. Say, Yuta, you fine with that? What? About Shiina-san? There's no way I'm winning. They never admitted that they're dating, but I knew I had no chance the moment I saw Shiina-san's face. You angry about this? Are you being wary? I don't think you'll feel that way given your personality, but I just want to be sure, you know? Just asking if you're really fine with this. Actually, I really admire her. I might say I have some feelings. Rather, I always feel that Shiina-san and I are the same kind of person, troubled by the opposite gender, happy to be loved, yet suffering from being so loved. She's like me, but she handles it better than me, hides all her pain, and just smiles like it's nothing. I really admire that strength of hers, so when I saw that she found she likes someone she's devoted to, I thought I should cheer them on before I could even interrupt. And you're being meaningless cool at this again. Does that have to do with this? Are you even praising me? Sorta. Sorta? Whatever, to be honest. I don't hate Fujimiya. He's a nice guy, and I find it a pity that he himself doesn't know that. Yeah, it has to be those two together. To put it bluntly from me, I'm fine if it's not Shiina-san. I like her, but it's not like I have to have her. It'll be rude of me to snatch her with this little determination, and she definitely doesn't have any interest in me. I see. Instead of feeling jealous and devastated about losing her, I'm more worried about them. I hope those two can get their happiness. You are really a good guy, Yuta. Are you looking down on me? No, no, no. Seriously, do your best too, Itsuki. Definitely. Chapter 91, Angel and the Rumors. Golden Week ended, and it was time for school again. The moment Amane entered the classroom, he heard a ruckus and was increasingly perturbed. It was common to see a commotion in the classroom right after a holiday, when people would talk about the souvenirs they bought. The commotion on this day, however, was different from usual. Instead of a discussion of what happened during the vacation, it appeared they were discussing rumors. Amane put his bag on his seat and pricked his ears. It appeared they were talking about Mahiru. I heard Sheena-san went out on a date with a really handsome guy. Maybe it's the guy rumored at the start of the year? She said she's not dating, but Amane's face twitched the moment he heard the word date. Though he had somewhat expected that he would be spotted, he never thought this topic would be a hot one through the entire classroom. The girls chatted rumors as they looked towards Mahiru. It appeared Mahiru had not noticed it, or perhaps she did, but ignored them. She was preparing for the first Ariad. Her dignified, innocent look remained one of much attention. But the stares towards her on this day were filled with much curiosity. Hey, Sheena-san. One of those girls seemed to have resolved herself as she spoke to Mahiru. Sheena-san. A few days ago I saw you with a man at the shopping mall. Yes, that did happen. Are you dating you? She's a warrior to dare ask Mahiru head-on, Amane thought as he watched. He was worried, and Mahiru merely blinked away. It appeared Mahiru would respond in her usual angelic mode. Yes, she probably would deny it with an angelic smile, if it was the usual her. I guess it was a date, if we consider the definition of one. One had to wonder what Mahiru was thinking when she actually admitted it. The definition of a date was basically an appointment between male and female. She was right in this sense, but there was no way the girls would actually follow that strict definition. Kyaaaaa, hysterical shrieks followed. No matter the occasion, females always loved to gossip passionately about others. Usually Amane could watch them from afar and just dismiss it as them being able to talk, but he could not do so this time as he was the party implicated. Sheena-san, you're dating that man? It's the first time I heard of it. We aren't dating, but he is the person most important to me. As shrieks and squeals escalated, Amane's gut started to wince. Mahiru was not lying at all. Aman knew she really treasured him. However, she was not stating the exact facts, but rather the situation that could be understood in many ways. The moment Mahiru did so, there would be rumors that she liked that man. Mahiru merely smiled as she saw these excited girls, however. She glanced aside at Amane, showing a non-angelic smile. Amane clutched his forehead, looking happy, embarrassed, while suffering from gut pain. It appeared Itsuki too was eavesdropping, for he smirked as he slapped Amane's shoulder. Amane felt fatigue looming onto him in a single instance. To be honest, I don't think that could be denied. The duo dropped by at a fast food restaurant after school, and Itsuki mentioned this after seemingly thought of something. Despite having lunch, Amane was hungry after their afternoon gym class. They were chatting while eating fries. Itsuki showed a wry smile as he seemingly recalled the commotion in the morning. And due to the chaotic day, Amane never got to eat with Mahiru. The latter was questioned by everyone all day, and Amane really could not sit with her. Couldn't be denied. Itsuki probably meant that they could not deny it like before. But Amane did not know why. I say, Yuta already can tell you two are close on first glance. You two definitely held hands when walking, right? Ugh. She couldn't deny it when people saw that. That's why she could only say that. Now that he mentioned it, Amane could not refute it at all. It was true that objectively speaking, their little trip days ago might appear like an intimate date. From time to time, they did hold hands, lean on each other, and smiled at each other. Clearly, they were a couple to those not in the know. Thus, Mahiru's response was to be expected, it seemed. And that's also for show. For show? She's trying to shoo the boys, and show that she has no intention of fighting against the other girls, you know? Yuta's the same. Once he got popular, there's some who got jealous. I guess that applies for that angel too. If she hints that she has someone she likes and ignores everyone else, nobody will think she's interested in Yuta, even if she does interact with someone like him. I see. Amane was not one of the popular ones, and did not give such a vibe. No matter how popular he might be, a small minority could not accept it. It was impossible to please everyone. Amane had never seen anyone criticize Mahiru to her face, but surely there were some who were displeased with her. Once anyone was popular, those of the same gender would have bias against that person. It appeared to be a common trend between both male and female. But I guess she has another goal. Just think of it. Itsuki mentioned that Mahiru had another objective to this, but Amane could not imagine it. Amon could not think there was anything other than for other boys to give up and other girls to stop being jealous of her. Say, Amon-kun. What? Itsuki looked stunned when he saw how clueless Amane was, but he merely shrugged and ended this conversation. You don't stand out the way you are right now, but if you tidy yourself up, nobody will say anything if you walk next to her. Stop denying yourself. Itsuki said these words to curb Amane's habit of self-doubt. The latter nodded begrudingly. I know. Sigh. Well, your virtue is that you don't get carried away, but it's also your fault. Why do you lack such confidence? It's completely rooted within you. Why, you ask? It's because of something that happened in the past. Is it all right for you to tell me what it is? It's not like I'm actively trying to hide it. It's just not something to talk about. Amon did not have a tragic past, and he was not bullied by anyone. It was simply that the person he once trusted denied him and said he had no value. He still could not forget this little incident and was ashamed of it. It continued to torment his heart, and he was still in pain. This pain did not work up like before, but he still would feel some emptiness. Ever since he met Mahiru, he was no longer tormented by self-loathing, but his self-doubt still lingered. I'll hear you out when you want to talk then. Itsuki did not intend to pursue the matter. He really had good instincts, or rather he was adept at testing the limits the other party would not want to cross. He was always the mood maker, for he was able to sense the little changes in mood. Itsuki backed down easily and giggled at Amane. Well, you should have a little more self-confidence. You're no longer your past self. How about you change your image completely? Forget about it. How petty. I was looking forward to the before and after. Well, that's fine. Try getting her to look at you more before you deny that possibility. You're not aggressive enough. Aggressive, huh? Push her down aggressively. Are you an idiot? How can I do that? Amani believed that if he really did so, she would surely despise him. It was completely different from head-patting and holding hands. Mahiru was sensitive to this matter because of her parents. Amane was not dating her, but trusted by her. Surely she would revile him if he did such a thing. It was completely different from a mere skinship. Well, you should hug her at least. Who do you think I am? You're not confident. You're dishonest. You're a coward. You can touch her instinctively, but you never take the initiative to. Ugh, wait. How are you so sure about that skinship stuff? Chi told me. Do you mind not revealing that? How much did Mahiru tell Shitose? Is this the reason why Shitose seems to be leering at me? Look, guys need some guts. You don't have to confess. But since you can hold hands, you can go a little further. Try closing the distance. You make it sound easy. I'm seriously so anxious for you. I feel like kicking you in the back. She opened her heart to you, and some skinship is fine as long as it's not sexual harassment. I heard from Chi that you've been giving her heat pats, right? What's wrong with a hug then? Don't say the impossible. I did actually hug her before. However, Amane could not say that. He did so back then to support Mahiru, who was on the verge of breaking down, and it was not for the sake of love. Amane felt he could not embrace her lovingly. In the first place, would she agree? How about you try asking her? I think she'll agree to that easily. How's that possible? Who knows? She actually allows contact from those she's very close with. Chi said that when she stayed over, they bathed together and slept in the same futon. Mahiru did stay over at Chitose's place during Golden Week. Amane never expected their relationship to be so good. However, he had a feeling that it was because Chitose was pestering Mahiru. I'll feel bad for you if Chi snatches her away. Say don't compare a fellow female friend with someone like me. Well, no point talking about that. How about you try hugging her? Put some effort into it, will ya? Itsuki cackled away. Sure is easy of you to point fault from the side. Amane muttered as he took the hardened bits of fries left in the box and poured it into his mouth. Chapter 92. Angel and Hug. Mahiru. After dinner, Amon recalled what Itsuki mentioned and called for her name hesitantly. She was seated next to him. And tilted her head as she looked towards him. Herm well. It appears you have something to say. She waited patiently for him to continue, while he remained frustrated about what he should say. One reason was that when Aman and Itsuki went their separate ways, the latter gave him a nudge saying, "Hug her if you have the guts." Another reason was that he was curiously interested if Mahiru would forgive him if he hugged her. Also, Mahiru was delicate, tender, and smelled good. Any boy of this age would want to hug her. Any youth would have such an impulse. But he could not simply ask her, "Can I hug you?" Surely she would roll her eyes at him, going, "What are you saying?" And if he suddenly hugged her, she might refuse. It was a dilemma. "We have tests next week." Being passive, Amane changed the topic. Mahiru obviously knew this was not the topic he referred to, but it seemed she knew he was unwilling to say it and gave a wry smile. "Yes, but it is easy since we are not tested lots." Yeah. It was an abrupt change of topics, but Mahiru continued. Amane felt heavy-hearted, as though his shame and cowardice was bared before him. He ended up saying, "What is it?" "Nothing. I'm so hopeless." "Why are you denying yourself again? Did someone say anything to you?" "Nope. It's different this time." Aman merely felt despair at his own weakness. "Goodness. I really do not understand. But please buck up." Mahiru reached to pat Amane's head, and he had no intention to refuse as he let her be. Her movements were earnest, familial, and kind, easily capable of lulling anyone to sleep. As she patted, Amane felt strength sapped away from him. The tension he had before was gone, and before he knew it, he let her do as she pleased. Ah, how am I supposed to say this? What? Like, "Can I hug you?" Or something like that. You just did. Aman blinked as he stared at Mahiru and found her with her head lifted towards him. "Can you pretend not to hear it?" "No can do. Please do not put me on the spot." She narrowed her eyes, and he felt his face cringing. He really did not intend to say it. His sanity told him that it was a bad thing to say so to a girl he was not dating. Also, he was a coward who always put himself in check. Once he mentally let go, however, he just blurted it out. He gingerly looked over at her face. However, she did not appear to be uncomfortable with it. She looked stunned, seemingly out of it, shocked, as though she had an out-of-body experience. This, in turn, left Amani shocked. "I will not be angry about this. At most, I am amazed to say that you are a boy after all. I don't like how you're being accepting of this." "No? It's not like I want to touch just anyone." If the reason was that he was a boy after all, it would be akin to say that he was fine with any girl. He wanted to hug her, embrace her softness and touch her because she was Mahiru, even though he might sound like a pervert. No matter how pretty and alluring a girl would cling on to him, he was confident that he could reject the girl. Rather, he did not want to interact with any unacquainted female, no matter the intentions. Mahiru froze once she heard his flat-out denial. A faint color started to arise within her snowy white skin, and he realized that he let his tongue slip a second time. Thus, Amani was left ashamed, his face searing, and his vision was swimming about. Shall we?" Mahiru said timidly, and Amane was at a loss of words. It was Amani who said he wanted to hug, even though he just blurted it. But nobody would have expected Mahiru to actually agree. Of course, Mahiru would not invite just anyone. Amane knew she said so because she trusted him, but that request was really bad for his heart. She blushed, and her eyes were moist as she looked up at Amane when she said so. Naturally, his sanity could not be contained. He cautiously reached his hands towards Mahiru and hugged her delicate body by her arms, wrapping his arms around her back. It was the second time he hugged her firmly, but it was different from the time she cried. She was willing to be in his clutches. That day, he never could feel her. But as he hugged her, he experienced how slender and feeble Mahiru was. She had lean shoulders, and her arms were frailly thin. There was a sweet smell coming from Mahiru's neck, and Amane had a feeling this was going to end up bad. Despite how agitated he was feeling, Amane managed to say his true thoughts calmly. He was relieved to have Mahiru next to him. Rather, through this skinship, Amane felt happy. Amane-kun, I heard that by hugging 30 seconds, you can reduce a third of your day's stress. Mahiru whispered in his clutches as she nudged her body slightly. So there's no stress if I hug for 90 seconds. I do not know, but I feel that my stress for the day is gone. Is that so? After all, many people asked me questions today. Once he heard that, Aman recalled of the conversation Mahiru had with the girls. Ahurm, the most important person. Once Amane asked hesitantly, Mahiru, who buried her head in his chest, lifted it. She was not looking embarrassed, but was giving a slightly forlorn smile. For me, the world is really small. I can count the number of people I like with a single hand. I am like a little Hakoniwa of them all. You are the closest to me. Amane-kun, you said I should be myself. Mahiru, so you should have a little more confidence in yourself. Amane-kun, you should impose yourself more, because you are too humble. A wry smile appeared on Mahiru's face, and Amane felt some heat from his eyelids. Can I really? Of course. Please do the same as you did when you encouraged me. I see. If you lack confidence, I shall encourage you any time and embrace you. You should be fine with that, I suppose. Yeah. Once he heard her powerful words, Aman buried his face into her shoulder and hid his expression. He hoped to support Mahiru, but he ended up supported by her. He really could not laugh at this situation, but perhaps it was really like him. Has your stress vanished, Amane-kun? Just let me be for a little longer. Yes, sure. Amane seemingly fawned about as he remained on Mahiru. Goodness me, who answered as she gave him such a smile. Chapter 93. A Little Step. Huh. You're serious this time, Amane. It was break time, and Amane was staring at the whiteboard, copying notes when Itsuki approached him. Itsuki looked a little surprised as he exclaimed, "This notebook was good for recapping the lessons, and summarized the important points well, to the point where he could be proud of it." Wow, you really put in work. When Itsuki peeked at the notebook, he looked dumbfounded and amazed. Just wanted to work a little harder. What's the occasion? Nothing really, just want to do something I can be proud of. Amani had a goal, to not be so grumpy hard on himself, and be confident. He decided to improve his grades as the first step to building confidence. It so happened that there were upcoming tests, so he decided to score better this time around. Amane had above-average grades. He wanted to use this chance to get into the top 10. There was no way he could beat Meheru for first, so he decided to aim for the top 10 for the time being. His grades would also affect his post-graduation, so it was a perfect goal for him. I don't know how to become a better man, and the definition of it differs from person to person. Anyway, let's just make sure that I don't embarrass her. I think you're fine like this. You just need more confidence. It's for the sake of gaining confidence. Amane was only getting encouraged, and was not completely confident. He needed something he could be confident of. Despite that, the only thing he could do was to study. You're not tidying your hair? That's a different matter. I don't need to do so now. Itsuki probably was hinting at Amane to maintain that old hairstyle, but Amane was unsure if he could actually cultivate this confidence in this state. Also, there was a simple, major reason. If he were to appear as the boy they were talking about, Amane had a feeling the other boys would slaughter him out of envy. He thus chickened out. The important person Mahiru spoke of seemed to have shocked many boys. When they used to talk about the angel, none of them mentioned anything about love. She just personally mentioned the term most important person, however. The power was enough to discourage her admirers. The last time someone spotted her walking with anyone else, she denied it, saying they did not have such a relationship. It appeared she was hinting at one this time, which caused much guessing and a major incident. Amane was the rumored boy. He really wished others would not discuss this before the true identity of the boy. I just hope that you can finish your transformation soon and scare them. At least I can brag to others that you're a friend I can be proud of. What's the point? If you get a positive opinion, I'll be happy, you know? Really? Amane felt a little bashful when Itsuki said so, but he did not know if he was just over-imagining it. He felt he did have a very good friend. He turned his face aside, not wanting this emotion to appear on his face, but Itsuki burst out laughing, as though he had seen through Amani completely. Chapter 94. Reward for the Tests. Say Mahiru, Itsuki and Kadawaki are having a study group at my place next Saturday. You fine with that? After dinner, Amane and Mahiru brought the dishes to the basin when he suddenly asked her, seemingly having recalled something. Aman was going to focus and study hard for this exam. In the meantime, he asked if Itsuki and Kadawaki could join. On a side note, Itsuki could get good grades if he studied well, but his grades were average otherwise. Kadawaki was an all-rounder who excelled at studies. He was athletic, had the looks, and was no slouch in studies either. Anyone would take their hat off for him. Amani was fine with opening a study group, since their presence would not affect him, but he was starting to worry about Mahiru's thoughts, given that she would be cooking. I am fine. Shall I cook for everyone? I guess. Thanks for doing this much, but are you okay with that? It is just an increase in portion. That should be fine. May I join too? If you don't mind, maybe you can invite Chitose along too? I don't know if she's free though. I'm not sure if she'll study for real. Chitose was not really a serious person. She could study at least, but she was not particularly smart. At the very least, Amani could not imagine her studying seriously. That will not be a problem. I have invited her. Eh? No, she said. Dad will tell me off if I don't score well for the tests this time. So I did have plans to study with Chitose-san this Saturday. Wait, was he aiming for Chitose to begin with? Itsuki was the one who suggested this study group, and Amani suspected that he did so knowing that Chitose made such arrangements. These guys, Aman noted wryly as he washed the stained plates with hot water. Mahiru too smiled as she put the cooled leftovers into the lunchbox. I guess, even if that's the case, this study group will be really lively. You don't mind the noise, Mahiru? I am fine. I do normally study after all, so I am not that worried. Amane knew that Mahiru could say such words easily due to the hard work she usually put in. He did not have much thought about it. He was, however, curious as to how she was able to study so efficiently. Say, Mahiru, can I see your notes later? Of course. Your notes are pretty too. Amane-kun. Well, I think they're decent there, but I want to see the notes of our valedictorian. There is nothing much to look forward to. Mahiru giggled as she put the leftovers into the fridge. The dinner put into the fridge was to be Amane's breakfast the next day, and as Amane washed the dishes, he quietly worshipped Mahiru. Amane's dinner and breakfast were cooked by Mahiru, and he ended up eating and living healthily every day. Aman-kun, you are working hard for these tests. Part of increasing my own confidence. Since I want to do it, I should go all out. I see. Shall I give you some motivation? Motivation? If you manage to get into the top 10, I shall give you a lap pillow and dig your ears, Amane-kun. You slept soundly the last time, so I suppose you really enjoy it. I do not know if this is a reward, however, Mahiru said with a smile. This is a great reward, Amani thought to himself as he washed the dishes. What is she saying now? He wondered, but he could not resist the charm of the lap pillow. Even if he wanted to refuse, if you do not want it, I suppose we can pass on it. Mahiru ended up commenting sadly, and Amane instinctively answered, I'll take your word for it then. He was a little disgusted with how he was too honest with his desires. It is a promise then. But Mahiru smiled somewhat bashfully. Aman easily lost to his desire and accepted this. Chapter 95. Angel and the Study Group. Pardon our intrusion. It was around 10 a.m. or so on the Saturday right before the tests. Itsuki, Chitose, and Kadawaki arrived right on time. They greeted in unison and entered through the entrance. Their middle schools were all in the same area, so they met up before arriving. The main reason was that Kadawaki did not know where Amane lived, but another reason was that they were all on good terms. Oh, welcome. Where's Mahirun? She's preparing lunch in the kitchen. Mahiru arrived earlier at Amani's place and was preparing lunch. She went ahead to prepare serving the others, as she did not have to rush with her studies. On a side note, she was cooking roast beef. Once preparations were done, she would leave the beef to set, and they should be able to enjoy some sufficiently tender beef for lunch. Quote, "She's so used to it, huh?" Shut up. She's like a newlywed wife welcoming your colleagues. I am not giving you breakfast if you say any more. No. I want to eat Mahirun's cooking. What nonsense are you saying? Amain cursed and looked at Kadawaki, finding the latter staring at him somewhat dumbfoundedly. What? Nothing. It's just that Shina-san so naturally shows up at your place, Fujimiya. I don't have a choice. She's always been cooking for me. Amon turned his head aside and found Itsuki giggling while covering his mouth. Amon was reminded of his mother's smile and was frustrated. He gently kicked at Itsuki's calf. Welcome, everyone. Is something wrong with Akazawa-san? Don't worry. Mahiru was probably worried to see Itsuki's mysterious smile, but that worry was redundant, and Amane hoped she would not mind. Despite being skeptical, it appeared she had nothing to worry about and showed her usual smile. Please proceed to the living room. I have some things to prepare. The apron fluttered as she turned to return to the kitchen. She looks like a newlywed, Itsuki muttered as he witnessed that back. This time, Amon slapped him in the back. Let us begin studying then. After preparing lunch, Mahiru served tea and sat next to Amane. As for why she was sitting next to Amane, that was due to the other trio's plotting. Yes. Quote, What do you not understand, Chitose-san? This is mathematics, I guess? Everything. Everything. She's bad at maths. Best she can do is pass. Chitose could study, but she was not exactly capable of it. She was rather bad at mathematics and somehow would miraculously avoid failing. Mahiru's face twitched the moment she heard everything. Nevertheless, it was to be expected that Chitose really did not understand. Luckily, she had some fundamentals. She can't handle applied problems. The best way is to teach her how to apply formulas to them. Is she fine with formulas? Should be. More or less. Amani sensed that Chitose still had issued, and hoped Mahiru would start teaching her from there. Chitose was not dumb in any way, but she could not solve them as she did not know how to apply. She should be capable of getting some marks once she understood those. Anyway, Itsuki, put in some effort. Ha ha ha. Don't pull a fast one on me by laughing. Study. What does he think a study group is for? Yuta Amani's so strict. It's about time you get serious, Itsuki. Kadawaki refused to help with a hearty smile, and Itsuki dropped his shoulders, looking devastated. Kadawaki had opened his textbooks and notes, and was studying diligently. Amani hoped that both Itsuki and Chitose would learn from him. On a side note, Kadawaki had no particular weak subjects and was an outstanding boy with above-average scores. Aman, too, had no weak subjects. All he had to do was to memorize and apply what he studied. He left Chitose's tuition to Mahiru and looked at the world history textbook he had prepared for himself. Chapter 96, Everyone's Lunch. I'm bored. About 2 hours after the study group started, Chitose muttered in annoyances and laid backwards. She then rolled about on the floor. Chitose was wearing shorts and tights, so there was no worry of seeing her panties. A man, however, picked the sofa blanket and threw it onto her lap and lifted his head to look at the time. Guess it's about time to rest. It's past noon. Yeah, it's almost time for lunch. Mahirun's cooking. Once she heard of Mahiru's cooking, Chitose was revived as though she was given money. She got up easily and tapped at the table. What's for lunch today? Roast beef for mains. That's quite filling for lunch. I remembered Amani-kun said he wanted some. Thanks for that. Aman did say that he wanted to eat it, but he never expected Mahiru to cook for him and was really grateful. According to Mahiru, this dish was easier to prepare than Amani imagined, so the plan was for them to have some meat and to continue studying after food. However, Amane had a feeling that a certain person might not study after school. It would depend on her, however, so Amane did not retort. I shall go prepare it. Please wait. Ah, I'll help serve too. Mahiru took some of her studying time to cook for them, and after all, Amane had been asking her to do so. Like usual, Amane suggested to help. Least do. Mahiru smiled and nodded. The dishes were already done, and they simply needed to heat it and serve it on plates. Aman only helped with serving the dishes, but it was all he could do. You three clear the table. I'll get a cloth. What's with you? Nothing, nothing. Tell me that after you hide that annoying face of yours. Amani narrowed his eyes at a leering Chitose, and then followed Mahiru into the kitchen. He took out the folded tablecloth from the basket, soaked and wrung it dry. At the same time, Mahiru took out a pot of pottage from the fridge and put it on the stove. Aman-kun, please cut the lettuce later. I am cutting other vegetables. Okay. This little task was easy, so once Amani handed the wet cloth to Itsuki, he returned to the kitchen, washed his hands, and began cutting the 2 lettuce rolls Mahiru prepared. They had more than sufficient. They were preparing food for 5, 3 of them being hungry high school boys. It appeared Mahiru knew that a high school boy's appetite was not one to be underestimated. The other vegetables were rather bountiful. One reason, however, was that it really was just like Mahiru to wish that everyone would have more nutrition. It's amazing how he instinctively acted, right? I didn't get to show up in more ways than one. Amane heard such voices behind him as he cut the lettuce and stuffed them into the bowls. 5 people's worth of dishes were served on the same table. The salad and even the roast beef was sufficiently plentiful for 3 high school boys. The corn pottage was sufficient enough for them to ask for seconds. On a side note, they voted on whether to have bread or rice, and rice won. They too could have seconds. Aman loved rice and was pleased to help himself. Please help yourself. Mahiru showed a more angelic smile than usual as she coaxed them to each, and so the 4 of them clapped hands, said thanks, and began eating. Delish. Itsuki quickly brought the roast beef to his mouth, commenting so. It appeared Mahiru was relieved as she smiled. It's really good, Shina-san. Thank you very much. I did not add any flavorings, though. It has nothing to do with skill. You're being humble again. Humble, huh? Itsuki laughed and started gobbling down as he was probably hungry. Amane showed a wry smile seeing him like this. It's good. Chitose too giggled as she ate lots of meat, gorging as much as Iski, and the portions of roast beef quickly vanished. Kadawaki in turn ate rather calmly. Amane hoped they could learn from Kadawaki. A man then started eating the meat a tad later. Roast beef was unpalatable either when either overcooked or undercooked, but the meat was just right, tender and juicy. It did not feel dry. The freshness of the meat was contained, and he could feel the fragrance brimming with every bite. Meat is good after all. Amane was not really a meat lover compared to other boys, but he did find it delicious. The biggest reason was that he liked anything Mahiru cooked, that her cooking was delicious. Aman sighed blissfully and showed a smile on his face. You really can cook, Shina-san. I've seen your bento, and it's really great. Thank you for the compliments. I don't know how to cook. The idea of staying alone during college is driving me angsty. There are some who can live alone without knowing how to cook, you know? You're talking about me, right? Aman had a feeling Mahiru was discreetly telling him off, but she was right, and he had nothing to grumble. After all, after Mahiru had taken care of him for so long, he should be kneeling down and thanking her. Thus, her words were to be expected. Actually, it's true that I can't cook at all. I really have to thank you every day. I am not blaming you. I do not dislike cooking for you, Amane-kun. Really? That's great. Amane might never recover if Mahiru said she disliked it, even though he felt she would never say so. But well, you really are the type to work hard for others, Shina-san. You'll make a good bride. Be bride. Yu-chan's right. Chitose referred to Kadawaki with a cute nickname and continued, I guess Mahirun doesn't need training on how to be a bride. You should be the one training with Mahiru. That sounds really good, but I'll be a third wheel. Wheel? No, nothing. I'm happy with Mahirun teaching me how to cook. Please continue to take care of me, Mahirun. Chitose gave Mahiru a meaningful smile, and the latter's shoulders shriveled. Her cheeks turned red, and she seemed strangely uneasy. Chapter 97. Study, Meet, and Rest. After their meal, they started studying again. However, Chitose was ultimately unable to focus, and while snacking away, she started rolling about, saying, "I'm tired." "A man, can we play games?" "Play all you want, but I don't care how your grades turn out." "Oi, you're strict." "We can relax a bit, but you'll overdo it. If you think you can watch yourself, go ahead." "I'll continue with my studies," Amani replied as he continued to solve the questions. In a corner of his eyes, he saw Chitose puffing her cheeks slightly. He already expected that Chitose, who hated studying, was getting sick of it. He set up a game console and 4 game controllers next to the TV cupboard. After all, no human could concentrate fully. He felt it was fine if she just wanted to play and rest for a little while. Aman would take short breaks after every hour, and was fine with not taking long breaks. He did not dislike studying and could keep at it for a long time. "You're cruel, Amane. We're here for a study group, right? Whatever, we can play for a while. 4 game controllers, take it as a break." "I'll take up that offer then. But you shouldn't push yourself too hard studying, you know?" I rested. "You're that serious, huh?" "Well, you're always serious." "I'll play then, what about you, Ikun?" "I'll play then. Won't be playing all the time, though." Itsuki might have been worn out from studying for 2003 hours, and was interested once games were mentioned. "How about you, Yuta?" "Sure, you fine with this, Fujimiya?" NN. Katawaki was more serious than Itsuki and Chitose, but he too was interested in playing some games to rest. "Do as you please." So Amane indicated as he turned his eyes towards the textbooks again. On a side note, Mahiru was next to him, solving the problems quietly, and showed no sign of losing concentration. "You're not playing, Mahiru." "I shall study for a little longer." "I see." Amane was studying hard as he swore he had to work hard. But Mahiru was always in this state, and Amane was really impressed with her. She managed to maintain her status as valedictorian due to her relentless hard work, and this relentless hard work was what made Mahiru amazing. Amane saw the trio leave the table and occupy the space before the game console. He then purged them from his mind and started writing with his mechanical pencil. The sounds of the pencil and rubber rang clearly, along with Mahiru's breathing sounds next to him. He could vaguely hear squeals from afar as he recalled the every teacher's bias of questions, and solved the questions that could possibly be tested. He had ease dealing with the tests of the teachers who had been teaching them since his first year. Amani memorized how the questions would be set based on the teachers' personalities and lesson scope over the past year. He planned to grasp the tendencies of the teachers who started to teach them this year. He did predict the scope of lessons when he taught Chitose. It was up to chance, but he did not really expect to be wrong. Chitose should be able to avoid failing if she focused on these sections. "Aman-kun, please have some." A man was solving the questions when he realized that Mahiru, who should be next to him, had stood up. She put a cup of coffee next to his hands, and there was some potion milk and a small sugar cube. His face relaxed once he saw this cup of coffee. "Same as the usual. Is this fine?" "Oh, thank you." Having been together for half a year, they knew very well what each other liked. Mahiru served him coffee while he was thinking of having some. Amane gratefully received it by the handle and found another little saucer. "What is this?" "It is a little financier. I baked them yesterday as I think we need sugar for studying." There was a bite-sized financier on the plate, a finely roasted brown. There was a fork on it, for she had considered that Aman would be eating it while studying. The financier was just large enough. It appeared she had baked for Itsuki and the others, who were playing games. There were plenty of financiers for 3 on the plate, served on a tray, a few forks placed by the side. There were also 3 coffee cups prepared for them. She also prepared sugar and milk sachets for them. "Chitose-san, everyone please have some." Mahiru smiled as she approached them, and placed the tray on a little table by the side. "Wah! Thanks, Mahirun." "Oh, some desserts. Perfect timing. Thanks, Shina-san. My pleasure. Mahiru happily looked at the trio who were overjoyed by the desserts and returned to Amane, who naturally smiled. I get the feeling that I caused you to prepare lots. No, I wanted to do this. I did this during my study break. This can be considered rest for me. You really are the type to give your all. I just want to work hard for those who work hard. The moment he heard this mutter, Amane sensed heat rising up his throat. He hurried downed it with the coffee before it could come out. He found the coffee exceptionally sweet. She added the same amount of sugar as usual, yet he found it really sweet. He did not know how to react to this sweetness he did not dislike, how to react to Mahiru's words, and lied to himself as he looked down at his textbook. Chapter 98. The Angel and the Devilish Smile. Ultimately, the gaming party lasted until evening. Amen could not concentrate after having studied for so long, so he stopped to join them for games. However, the long study time was not the only reason why he could not concentrate. What does she mean by working hard for those who work hard? Mahiru's little muttered swirled in Amane's mind. Aman knew that Mahiru loved to act for others, but when she said so, it appeared that she had feelings for him. As far as Amane knew, Mahiru's fondness of him was not in the sense of a boy-girl relationship. But once he heard her say so, he started to delude, wondering if she viewed him as a boy and was willing to devote her utmost to him. No, if she's taking care of me and giving her all for me because I'm too rotten, that I can understand. Amane could not do housework, so it was possible interpretation of that. No, if he worked hard, he could at least live normally. At this point, however, he was completely reliant on Mahiru. One had to wonder if Mahiru was implying that she had the urge to keep taking care of him, or that she was taking care of him because she liked him. Amane liked Mahiru, and naturally he hoped the situation was the latter. He did not think it came out of nowhere, but once he thought of the possibility of her liking him, he found it impossible in various ways. Aman, you fell out of the arena, eh? As he was distracted by his thoughts while playing, he made a mistake, and his character fell off. It was game over for him as he had no remaining lives. Itsuki, Chitose, and Kadawaki were fighting. Amane did not know of Kadawaki's abilities, but he usually would not have lost that easily. In other words, he was so distracted by Mahiru's words. You're spacing out, man. Guess you can't concentrate after studying so much. Maybe you want to play, Mahiru? No, thank you. I think it is about time to cook. Mahiru had a look at the time, and Amane did the same. It was almost 7 p.m. and might be a little too late to prepare dinner. Seriously, it's that late now. I got to go home. I can't stay overnight. Yeah, Chi wants to stay over at Shina-san's place, but there's no change of clothes, and she doesn't have permission. Also, I don't think Chi can wear Shina-san's clothes. Hey, what are you saying now, Ikun? Height, of course, the couples arguing amicably like usual, and Mahiru smiled at them. Please stay over next time. You sure? Yes. If you say beforehand. I'll stay over at Amane's palace then. Feels like you just want food. Ah, busted. But Shina-san's food is good. Itsuki smiled without any ill intent. If Mahiru agrees, that is, Amane sighed. Mahiru would have to cook more than usual, so Amane could not make the decision unilaterally. If she refused, they would have to eat outside or at the convenience store. But that would feel like a boys' night out and might not be a bad thing. Mahiru agreed with a smile. Amane had a feeling Itsuki would soon be staying over. Will you be joining us next time, Kadawaki? Can I? Of course. The Kikamane in the back group will gather then. Oi, what strange group are you talking about? Who knows? Itsuki smirked, and Amane tugged at his cheek. Kadawaki was first speechless, only to smile in relief. Say, Mahiru, what do you mean by working hard for those who work hard? Once the others left, Aman stood at the door and without hesitation asked whatever was on his mind. Actually, he hesitated over whether he should ask. Before Itsuki left, Amane asked what he should do. All right, just ask. Itsuki then kicked him. Aman never expected to be kicked, and slapped him back in retaliation. It appeared he did not learn from this lesson. It was pointless. Once she heard that question, Mahiru blinked away a few times and slowly curled her lips. What do you think it means, Amane-kun? That you can't leave a rotten guy be and want to take care of him? After all, he dared not go overly egotistic in saying that she liked him. Fufu, that is true. I dare not lose sight of you, Amane-kun. You will cause a mess in the house if I do not keep an eye on you. Your nutrition too will be horribly imbalanced. Ugh, you are hopeless without me after all, Amane-kun. Well, I can't argue with that. Aman was truly well cared of by Mahiru. Without her, he would never be able to live this lifestyle. That is fine, you know? I do like taking care of you, Amane-kun. You're spoiling me rotten. You're making it such that I can't live without you. Mahiru. Fufu. The terrifying thing about Mahiru was that if she was not present, Amane's life and mind would be completely wasted. He was her slave, in more ways than one, and could not break free from her easily. Rather, he could not break free at all and did not want to. Of course, the most important reason was that he liked her. If he was dumped after he confessed, it would not be an understatement to say that Amane's mind and life would be dead. That's why I can't take a step forward. He quietly mocked himself. One had to wonder what Mahiru was thinking when she leaned onto Amane. She did not lean too closely, just lightly, up front. She looked up at him and put her index finger on his lips. I will make you a good-for-nothing, so please go ahead and do so, no. She bashfully narrowed her eyes, as though she was pulling a prank. Aman stared at her and forgot to breathe. It was a smile he had never seen before. One so sweet, yet so exciting and a little alluring. She was practically a little devil. As she said, this smile could reduce him into a good-for-nothing and more than capable of shocking Amane's heart completely. He felt his heart pounding wildly, his blood rushing. He had seen an angelic smile, an innocent, fleeting smile, and various other smiles. None of them were as alluring as this Mahiru, however. Mahiru looked at a stupefied Amane happily and regained her usual smile. I shall prepare dinner then. She went to the kitchen. As Amane watched her leave, he felt his face burning. And after that, Mahiru was huddled in a corner of the kitchen, remaining still, for she did something she was unused to. Chapter 99. Test Results. Say, Amane, you overdid it this time, didn't you? Itsuki looked a little dumbfounded as he muttered, staring at the test results rankings pasted on the corridor bulletin board. After the study group ended, Amane continued to study head and finally took on the tests. His initial objective was to have a reason to be proud of himself, but more importantly, he wanted to purge away Mahiru's smile from his mind and concentrate. I will make you a good-for-nothing, so please go ahead and do so, no? Aman had the unbearable urge to twitch the moment he recalled that alluring mutter. He concentrated on his studies and pondered over Mahiru's words and face while trying not to be distracted. He ended up 6th this time. No, I didn't think I could do this well. You worked hard. Got some confidence now? More or less. I have to maintain these grades, though. Such high expectations. Amane scored well, but he did not want Mahiru to see his grades slip thereafter out of carelessness. The high ranking this time was pointless if he did nothing to maintain it. He could not be content with this, as they would have to take the college entrance exams later on. He could not attend college with the mentality that he could leave everything at the last minute. He hoped to put some effort into studying, even if it was for the sake of his future. On a side note, Mahiru performed as usual and was the undisputed first-ranked. It was due to her daily hard work and not easily summarized by the word usual. You're 6th this time, Fujimiya-san. Mahiru noticed Amani's name on the rankings as she stood behind him and gave a beautiful smile. Amane smiled in the face of Mahiru's angel mode and did not falter. He could feel stinging glares around him and was not in the mood to be embarrassed about the incident that happened days ago. I guess, that's good. Fufu. You have been working after all, Fujimiya-san. You were studying during breaks. Yeah. Since you worked so hard, you may give yourself some reward, Fujimiya-san. Yeah. Amane's heart got unbearably ticklish once he thought about the reward. By the way, he did promise Mahiru that she would give him a lap pillow if he was ranked in the top 10 and that she would dig his ears. He was purging various things from his mind, however, and had long forgotten about this promise. Of course, he could refuse, but could he refuse the happiness that was the endearment of the girl he liked? Congrats on getting first too, Sheena. You should be giving yourself a reward too, right? Yes, but it is a bad thing to spoil myself too much. You're very strict about yourself, Sheena. It's fine to relax a little and let go. Well, I shouldn't be the one saying that, however. Now that she mentioned it, Aman realized that he had a reward, yet Mahiru did not. He should give her one. Nevertheless, he did not know what to give. He should ask her once he returned home. How about you get something to coax her? Itsuki whispered to Amane once he saw Mahiru's angelic smile. Amane planned to without him being told. He silently swore to himself that once he got home, he would ask her, a reward for me? Aman returned home to see Mahiru in her apron, preparing dinner, and called out to her. Mahiru turned around, looking shocked. He thought of the reward after dinner, the devilish smile from days ago, and was strangely unable to calm down. It appeared she did not notice this, however. From her expression, it appeared his words took her by complete surprise. I do not have anything I want in particular. Like, anything you want me to do? From you, Amane-kun. I guess something like please use the slicer on the cucumber there. Not that whatever. It's not like you have to say one. Mahiru had no desire, or perhaps Amane had a feeling that she never took his words seriously. Despite that, he easily compromised as some extra manpower was fine. He was fine if Mahiru did not need it. If Mahiru really had something she wanted Amane to do, he intended to do so as long as it was within his capabilities. It appeared she just wanted the cucumber sliced. Amane washed his hands, took the slicer, and began cutting. Surely he was just helping, however. Please add salt and mix together. Okay, you really don't have any wishes? No. I am satisfied with the situation now. I do wish to fulfill my true desire on my own. Your true desire? What do you think it is? Amani lifted his head and found Mahiru's lips forming an arch. At that moment he saw that expression, the one akin to the devilish smile days ago. He dared not look at it directly, and looked down onto the cucumber. I don't know. Is that so? This is fine. The status quo is fine. She showed a wry smile at his words. Once again, she continued cooking, giving a vibe that she did not want Amain to ask any further. Amain was left at a loss of what to do and could only continue slicing the cucumber. Chapter 100, The Angel's Lap Pillow. Now then, over here, Amane-kun. After dinner, it was time for the reward, purgatory. Mahiru sat at a side of the sofa and slapped her thighs, as though it was a given. Amane was unsure of how to respond to that smile. On a side note, she was wearing shorts and black tights. There was a layer of fabric above the lap, but the thin material emphasized the skin greatly. Also, it appeared she had returned home to bathe, but she had a fragrance lingering all over her. It was practically suicidal for Aman to enjoy her lap pillow and have her dig his ears at this point. No, you do not have to force yourself if you are unwilling. Boo. But I'm really willing, you know. Then help yourself. We promised. Mahiru slapped her thighs again, and Amane gulped. The weather had warmed recently, and Mahiru's tights were thinner than before. The fabric clinging firmly onto her thighs vaguely showed some color of skin, and looked really seductive. Her thighs showed a silky curve beneath the tights, and the defenseless sight appeared to be tempting Amane. It appeared that Mahiru was going to murder Amane on this day, even though she might not have any intent to. Normally, Amane would try to refuse to protect his sanity and peace. However, the name of reward and Amane's desire as a man pushed him on into Valhalla. Amain timidly sat next to Mahiru and put his head on her thighs. Her thighs were as soft as he remembered. The fabric was thinner than before. The feeling and warmth struck him and agitated his heart. Amane did not know where to look and lifted his head. Mahiru's smile entered his eyes. However, her face showed up from time to time, all due to the two mountains in the way. It was May, and the weather got hotter. Perhaps this was why Mahiru was dressed thinly, and the curves of her fine body were emphasized. Even through the fabric, the body maintained its alluring shape despite being affected by gravity. Aman did not look up anymore. "Shall I start digging your ears?" Mahiru remained oblivious to Amani's inner screams as she declared somewhat excitedly. She reached for the ear pick and the tissue on the table. And then, certain soft things landed on a side of Amani's head. There was an indescribable scream in Aman's heart. But it appeared Mahiru still did not know. She quickly retrieved the ear pick and straightened her body. She probably did not realize that Amane had just felt the soft mass. His heart was pounding. His mind was no longer thinking about the ear digging. "Please do not move." Mahiru quietly coaxed as she gently held down his head with one hand. She probably was telling him not to move as she wanted to dig the ear. Amain really wanted to roll about, but was forced to remain still, which made him unbearable. Despite that, he dared not mess around too much, and obediently stared at the side of the table. Something hard slowly entered his ear canal. At that moment he shivered, for it was probably there the skin was thinner. Amain would not have such a feeling when he dug his own ears, but there was a strange ecstasy when Mahiru did so. It probably was because he was not doing it on himself, or maybe he was excited that the girl he liked was doing it for him. He knew that given her personality, Mahiru would be cautious while digging his ears. The extremely gentle motion still left him ticklish. It was an irresistible feeling, and while he could not say that he was comfortable with it, there was a little sense of alluring comfort. This indescribable comfort had him unable to resist the matter of the ear digging. "Does it not hurt?" It doesn't. Feels good. I see that is good. I heard this is a man's room. Is your romance satisfied? Maybe. So you are a boy after all. Aman-kun. Then what else am I? If he was not a male, Amani would not be suffering so much, and would not be so excited about such softness. There was no way he would not be panicking about the prospect of the girl he liked doting on him so much, and even allowing physical contact. Fufu. You are very gentlemanly, and I assumed you did not have much interest. Look, even if I'm gentlemanly, my words and thoughts aren't the same, right? Watch out, guys are like this, always giving a goody-goody look and always attacking when nobody else is around. By your reasoning, you are not a man, Amani-kun. Amani bit his lips, for he felt that Mahiru was saying he was a coward. It appeared Mahiru had no such intention as she continued to slowly dig his ears. "Aman-kun, please turn around. I am going to do the other side." A man frowned, but he turned around to dig the other ear. On a second thought, however, having to look at Mahiru's belly was a different torment altogether. Mahiru was wearing shorts, but a big tragedy would occur if he looked down. He could only look at her belly instead. He had no idea if he was in heaven or hell. If he could abide by his desires, it probably was heaven. However, he was hesitant, conflicted, and was practically taking a step into hell. "Amani-kun, it feels like you are shivering." "Don't mind." Of course, Amani could not express his true thoughts. Mahiru would suffer if he did. He could only hide his desires and let her dig his ear. He was terrified of the future, for the angel was innocently spoiling him rotten. Mahiru seemed skeptical about Amane's attitude, but Amane was facing towards her and did not look up. She thus did not ask any further and continued to dig her ears again. Amidst this indescribable itchiness, Amani closed his eyes and awaited the time for it to end. He closed his eyes, for if he opened them, he would have a strange sense of guilt. When this happened, however, his senses were sharpened. He could smell Mahiru's original scent, the shampoo, the liquid soap, felt the softness of the thighs, and could not calm down at all. It would be great if he could enjoy this softness without hesitation. "Amani-kun, may I touch your hair once I am done?" "Do as you please." Aman would not have to feel so conflicted if he ran away immediately. Tragically for him, however, he was a male, and he would hope to continue the lap pillow treatment if possible. Caught in a dilemma between stopping and continuing, Amane ultimately lost to his desires. He truly understood that in more ways than one, he was such a weak-willed person. Once she heard him agree to it, there was a delighted vibe oozing from Mahiru. "It will be over soon," Mahiru said as she dug his ears delicately. Amane felt a little regret that it was going to end soon and started brooding by himself again. Of course, he did not show this emotion in his expression or actions. The itchy, palatable sweetness ended once Mahiru pulled out the ear pick. Replacing it were her fingers gliding through his hair, and another form of comfort arose. "Yes, it is done." After combing his hair with her hand, Mahiru coaxed him gently like a child. Amane was embarrassed, and yet wanted to entrust himself to her. Once he understood his emotions tend towards the latter, he nearly let out a groan of much conflicted emotion. It was a reward, and Mahiru probably wanted to spoil Amane as much as possible, but surely he would end up a degenerate. She clearly intended to turn him into a good-for-nothing, as declared. No matter how Amane tried to resist, this comfort robbed him of the energy to do so, and he could not do anything. "I'm really turning into a good-for-nothing." Amani thoroughly experienced the fragrance of a girl, the body warmth, and the gentle movements caressing him. It did not seem much on first glance, but in fact, he was really comfortable and blissful. The situation and posture were so alluring to him. If she did these to him every day, Amani would surely end up a complete good-for-nothing. "Ha!" Aman sighed to relax, and heard a little giggle. "It is rare to see you fawn around. Whose fault do you think it is?" "It is mine." Mahiru gave a smile chuckle and continued to comb with her fingers. "I want to continue doting and touching you when I see you, Amane-kun. Your hair feels great." "Really?" "Yes, it is smooth and glossy." "How is it so glossy, I wonder?" "Maybe it's the shampoo Mom recommended. It won't hurt to keep your hair well." Shihoko strongly recommended this, and Amane was using the shampoo used at a hair salon, said to be good for hair care. Amane did not dislike the smell, and his hair did feel smooth after he dried it. Thus, he kept using it. "Your hair's smoother." Amane picked up a handful of Mahiru's flax-colored hair. The hair was smoother and glossier than his. That description was more apt for her. Amane's was far inferior. Her hair gave him an urge to keep touching. The fragrance was a faint soap smell, and did not sting. It was irresistible to men. "I get the feeling that you really put lots of care into your hair when I touched it." "Yes, I have not spared any effort on it." "I see. Anyway, you fine with me just touching it as and when I please. They say hair is a female's life. I like it to be touched by you, Amane-kun." Thank goodness she didn't see my face. So he thought, for his expression became really suspicious once he heard Mahiru's words. Shame, delight, confusion, sheepishness. He experienced an amalgam of emotions, and surely she would be suspicious if she saw it. "I'm carried away because you say such stuff." Amani closed his mouth and eyes, sighed, and tried to look normal.